Chapter 4275. Boss, we've obtained 4 regal bestowment blood essences this time. If we want to refine 2 pellets for breaking through to the Emperor realm, we'll only need 10 regal bestowment blood essences, right? Just as he condensed the blood droplets into the blood essence of the fierce beasts, the green ox immediately moved closer and stared at Xianxia as he said, "If that's really the case, then we only need 6 more king blood essences. With your current strength of the 8th level of the king realm, with your terrifying power, you can sweep through normal medium space forbidden lands. After we're done here, why don't we set off immediately and find 1 or 2 medium space forbidden lands? Even if we have to hunt secretly like before, it'll be good. After we get 10, let's make the pills to break through to the Emperor level first. We'll get 1 each. That way, we'll feel more assured." Hearing this, Xianxia was stunned. After a few seconds, he turned and stared at Green Bull. "You old thing, you just broke through to Emperor level and you're already thinking about the pills to break through to Emperor level? Do you even need them now?" "Hee, I can keep them with me if I don't need them. The key is that once I get the pills, I'll feel more assured, as though Emperor level is a sure thing. You don't know, Emperor level is much harder than Emperor level. Within Emperor level, it's hard for even 1 in 100 to break through. Of course, I'm nervous." "Piss off. What are you thinking about?" Xianxia rolled his eyes and pointed at the 3-clawed flood dragon and the others who were staring at him pitifully not far away. He said, "Look at him, he's already at the peak of the 9th step of the immortal realm. He's just waiting for a treasure pill to break through to the marquee immortal realm. He's not even in a rush yet. You're only at Emperor level 1, what's the rush?" No. The moment he said that, the 10 pinnacle immortals, including the 3-clawed dragon, immediately rushed over. They all stared at Xianxia with teary eyes. The former even grabbed Xianxia's arm. "Boss, we're in a rush." "Who said we weren't? We're waiting for the rice to cook. I really have to hand it to you guys." Xianxia was stunned and rolled his eyes speechlessly. After pondering for a while he said, "Forget it. Besides the pinnacle immortals, there are also a few more pinnacle universe grades after this battle. They also need the pills to break through to immortal level. In that case, let's refine this batch of blood essences into pills first." After saying that, he didn't hesitate and ordered the army to disperse and settle down on a life star. He immediately asked the remaining tribes to refine the pills from the beast's remains and precious medicines. Then, with a flash of his body, he entered the largest of the 4 giant life stars, which was the star nest of the weeping blood-fiery phoenix. The temperature of this planet was very high, but it was nothing to Xianxia. After entering the atmosphere of the planet, he directly entered a valley. With a wave of his hand, he set up an isolation formation and took out the Shenong cauldron. Shill! In a flash, Xianxia's figure flew up and entered the mouth of the Shenong cauldron, which was shrouded in 9-colored fog, and sat down cross-legged. His consciousness entered the interior of the Shenong cauldron the moment he closed his eyes and extended to the bottom of the volcano in the central region. There were only 4 pieces of monarch blood essence, which wasn't enough to support 1 refinement. Therefore, although the perfect pill formula for the level 23 pill had been deduced, there was no way to refine it yet. This time, Xianxia planned to refine a level 22 pill, a level 21 pill, and a level 20 pill. In short, he would only stop after using up all the blood essences of the fierce beasts other than the 4 king blood essences. The first thing he would refine was the level 22 pill. Previously, Xianxia had used 10 pieces of monarch blood essence to refine 3 level 22 pills. Now, he had 43 pieces of monarch blood essence in his hands. If there were no accidents, these 43 marquee blood essences should be able to refine at least 12 level 22 pills. This was definitely a shocking number. Xianxia still had 1 level 22 pill in his possession. If he were to really refine 12 this time, then the number of level 22 pills in his possession would reach 13. This was 13 emperors. Even in the large space forbidden lands, there were only 20 to 30 emperors. One could only imagine how precious these 13 level 22 pills were. With a wave of his hand, all the resources and top-notch treasures required for the level 22 pill formula were prepared. Together with the 43 marquee blood essences that he had just refined, they floated in front of Xianxia and shot down in the blink of an eye. Within the Shenong cauldron, at the bottom of the central region volcano. Xiao! Xiao! A weak breaking sound resounded. Beams of light shot out from the cauldron above the volcano, directly appearing above the lava pool at the bottom of the volcano. Shockingly, it was the various top-notch materials and cultivation resources that Yi Xian had prepared for the refinement of a level 22 pill. Phew! In the next instant, below all the resources, a majestic Shin-Nong 7-color flame howled out from the lava pool at the bottom of the volcano. In an instant, it condensed into a 7-colored cauldron with a radius of about 10 feet. It was small and simple, exuding an extraordinary aura. Immediately afterward, the blood essence of the fierce beasts and other materials and resources that had been prepared earlier all flew up automatically and entered this small cauldron with a radius of about 10 feet. Within the small cauldron, the second level, 22 pill refinement had officially begun. Rumble. Time slowly passed. After an unknown amount of time, a loud rumbling sound suddenly rang out above the flame pool at the bottom of the fire center in the central region. The cauldron condensed from the pure Shin-Nong 7-colored flames instantly dissipated, and a huge canopy of flames appeared. The rainbow-colored flames roared and rushed back into the flame pool below. Above the flame pool were round beads the size of an infant's fist. Although they were the same size as the blood essence from before, they were completely different. The blood essence was blood-red in color and exuded a dense blood and chi energy. Even though these pearls were also infant fist-sized, they glowed with 7 colors. There was a dreamy glow on the surface, giving off an ancient aura. All of the pearls were level 22 pills, and there were quite a few of them. There were a total of 14. There are actually so many? Yi Xian opened his eyes in the instant that the furnace of treasured pills was successfully refined. His voice, which was filled with surprise and joy, came from the mouth of the Shen-Nong cauldron above the volcano in the central region. These 15 level 22 pills represented that within Yi Xian's space nomadic army, in the near future, another 15 emperors would be born. Even Yi Xian's breathing couldn't help but quicken as he looked at the level 22 pills that were overflowing with treasure light. The harvest this time was truly too astonishing. Next, there would be a huge amount of precious pills of various levels coming out of the cauldron. Xiao. Chapter 4276. A level 21 pill could allow a pinnacle undying being at the pinnacle of the 9th rank to step into the marquee realm. As for the ingredients for this pill, other than the flesh and blood essence refined from the remains of the quasi-desolation great beings, the main ingredients were the blood essence of the undying ferocious beasts, as well as a large amount of top-grade precious materials and medicines from the formula of level 21 pills. Basically, 5 undying blood essences were enough to guarantee the success of one level 21 pill. But of course, Yi Xian was concentrating on the refinement, so the ratio could be smaller. The furnace of level 22 pills that he had just refined had proven this point once again. This time, of the more than 1,000 undying ferocious beast commanders in the forbidden land of Phoenix Blood, other than the 100 that were chosen by the Green Ox to be his subordinates, the rest were all killed. He had obtained more than 1,000 undying blood essences. These 1,000 undying blood essences were floating in front of Yi Xian. Among the ingredients used to refine level 21 pills, there was a huge amount of undying blood essences. They emitted a majestic aura of blood essence, which was eye-catching. It was easier for Yi Xian to refine level 21 pills. He was already familiar with the process and could do it with ease. In less than 2 hours, this furnace of level 21 pills was successfully refined. The final number of pills that came out of the furnace was just as he had guessed. It exceeded the ratio of 5 undying blood essences to 1 pill. There were a total of 286 level 21 pills made from the 1,000 undying blood essences. Looking at the 200 level 21 pills, Yi Xian's breathing became rapid again. It was as if he was looking at more than 200 marquee level undying beings. Inhale. Taking a deep breath, Yi Xian waved his hand and took out many small space boxes. After putting away all the level 21 pills, he waved his hand again. This time, he took out all the ingredients used to refine level 20 pills. This included more than 10,000 universe blood essences refined from the blood essence of the universe-level ferocious beasts, as well as various top-grade precious materials and medicines. Everything that followed was even easier. In fact, Yi Xian didn't need the blood essence to refine level 20 pills. He could use the method of gene cultivation fluid to refine level 20 pills. However, he had too many universe blood essences, so it was obviously easier to refine level 20 pills using this method. More than 10,000 universe blood essences, as well as an even larger amount of other supplementary materials, Xian only used an hour to successfully refine this furnace. The number of level 20 pills that came out of the furnace made him speechless. There were a total of 2,453 level 20 pills. In addition to the dozens that Xian originally had, he had more than 2,500 level 20 pills. More than 2,500 level 20 pills, more than 2,500 level 21 pills, more than 280 level 21 pills, and 15 level 22 pills. After putting away all of the level 20 pills, Xian's eyes shone with a bright light as he muttered to himself, "It seems that within the next 1 or 2 years, there's no need to refine a similar type of treasure pill. The stock in my hands is already enough. Even if I were to refine level 23 or even level 24 pills, those are for my own use. However, I don't have enough materials now." After arranging the matters of the space nomadic army and making them settle down in this Phoenix Bloodstar region, I'll take the opportunity to refine level 23 or even level 24 pills. After that, I'll bring Green Ox out and start a new round of hunting. Xiao. Stepping out of the farmer god cauldron, Xian waved his hand and kept the cauldron into his undying world. Then with a flash, he rushed out of the star atmosphere. At this moment, it had only been less than half a day since he entered this life star to refine level 20 pills in seclusion. In the void outside, the 3 legions that had gathered and participated in the post-war distribution were still in the midst of retreating. After all, only half a day had passed. The 3 legions, with so many battleships, and ferocious beasts, needed time to choose their own life stars. Including the 3-clawed flood dragon, and a dozen other pinnacle undyings were also in the void at this moment. All the pinnacle undyings, pinnacle universe grades, and pinnacle marquee. Forget it, the last one doesn't seem to be available. As his divine sense spread out, Xian's voice instantly enveloped the entire Phoenix Bloodstar region. All of his subordinates heard him. "All of you, come over and receive the various levels of treasure pills. They can help you smoothly break through the bottleneck of a large realm within 3 days. Including those who have just joined the ferocious beast army. If there are pinnacle universe old monsters and undyings old monsters, you can also come over and receive the pills. I'll give you an advance payment of 1 pill, which will be deducted from your battle merits later." Howl. Roar. Screech. As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding void instantly responded with a series of shocking roars and howls. In the entire space nomadic army, all the universe old monsters and undyings old monsters whose cultivation had reached the pinnacle of level 9 were all excited. It was as if they had been injected with chicken blood. They were extremely excited. If there were no accidents, they would break through the bottleneck of a major realm in 3 days. The universe old monsters would become undyings old monsters, and undyings old monsters would become marquee undyings old monsters. What could be more exciting than this? It wasn't just these tempered body old monsters and undyings old monsters who happened to meet the requirements. All the other army members, whether they were survivors, current starry sky masters, or the ferocious beasts who belonged to the original inhabitants of this fragment void, were here. After hearing Xian's words, all of their eyes burst out with a blazing light. Although they hadn't reached the pinnacle of level 9 and couldn't receive the pills, the scene in front of them undoubtedly showed that their leader had a large number of pills of all levels. As long as they practiced diligently, they could reach the pinnacle of their realm. They could apply for them at any time. This was simply opening up a channel for them to rapidly improve their cultivation. From now on, they only needed to immerse themselves in practicing hard without any other worries. As these thoughts flashed through their minds, all the members of this space nomadic army were in high spirits. Unknowingly, the army's morale had reached an astonishing level. After the battle, the haze was gone, and everything was thriving. Xiao! Xiao, xiao, xiao! Along with the sound of something breaking through the air, one figure after another shot towards the space where Xian was standing in from all directions. There were survivors, current starry sky masters of the captive army, and recently incorporated ferocious beasts of the forbidden area. These guys all met the requirements and applied for the pills from Xian to help them break through. Among them, there were more than 20 undyings old monsters at the pinnacle of level 9, led by the 3-clawed flood dragon. And there were more than 200 undyings old monsters at the pinnacle of level 9. If there were no accidents, after these 20 level 21 pills and 200 level 20 pills were distributed, within 3 days at most, Yi Xian's space nomadic army's number of undyings and above would rise again. It would soar by a large margin. Since then, including the survivors' tribes and the captive army, the entire space nomadic army would have more than 30 marquee undyings and more than 600 ordinary undyings, except for the 2 emperors. This definitely reached the level of a middle-level forbidden area. Chapter 4277. Whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As Yi Xian waved his hand, more than 20 level, 21 pills and more than 200 level, 20 pills instantly turned into fine rays of light and shot into the hands of Yi Xian's subordinates who had surrounded him and were staring at him. The 3-clawed flood dragon was one of them. Now that the pills were in his hands, he lowered his head and looked at them. Saliva was about to drip from the corner of his mouth, and his face was full of joy. All right, go into seclusion and break through. With a wave of his hand, Yi Xian dismissed everyone at once, directly ignoring Green, who was staring at him pitifully, trying to persuade Yi Xian to move out immediately and ambush other middle-level starry sky forbidden areas to hunt ferocious beast kings and condense regal blood essence. With a flash of his body, Green Ox charged toward the life star where the weeping blood fire phoenix's lair was. The planet was huge, but Yi Xian was the only one guarding it. There was no one else, and even Green Ox would not easily set foot on it. Everyone was familiar with each other, but even if they were on the same side, they still had to be careful. At this level, everyone had their own secrets. Although Green Ox's temperament was not very reliable, he still had a sense of propriety in this aspect. After entering the atmosphere, Yi Xian returned to the valley from before at once. With a wave of his hand, he had already summoned the farmer god cauldron. Of course, it was in its shrunken form, which was only 300 meters in size. Otherwise, even this giant planet would not be able to contain it. With one step, Yi Xian's figure appeared at the mouth of the farmer god cauldron. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared again and entered the cauldron's space. Roar! Just as he arrived near the volcano in the central region, a shocking roar came from the distant mountains. It was clearly the flying centipede's voice, and the aura of an undying official spread. Yi Xian's eyes brightened. That old man had finally broken through. In the next instant, Yi Xian's figure flashed and shot toward the direction of the roar. When he arrived, other than the flying centipede, even the figures of Old Monster Silver G and the 8 great guardian deities entered his sight. The last time he saw them, Yi Xian gave the flying centipede a level 21 pill, while the 8 great guardian deities each received a level 20 pill. During this period of time, Flying Centipede had a breakthrough and was now a rank 2 immortal marquis. As for the 8 great King Kong, they had 2 more breakthroughs after reaching the immortal realm. Now, all of them had reached rank 3 immortal realm. Even Old Monster Silver G's cultivation base had reached the 7th level of the immortal realm. After 2 more breakthroughs, he would need to consume a level 21 elixir to break through to the titled marquis realm. Swish! Xiao xiao xiao. A few sonic booms resounded. A level 22 pill for Emperor level Undying and 9 level 21 pills for official level Undying shot out, landing in the hands of the Flying Centipede, the 8 Vajra and Silver G. Inside. Your cultivation base is not there yet. Keep the elixir first. When you reach rank 9 perfection, consume it and use it to break through the bottleneck. Yi Xian nodded and continued. As for the usual cultivation resources, you should still have plenty. Use them first. During this period of time, if there's nothing important, don't come out of seclusion. The situation outside is very stable, so it's not the time for you to make a move yet. So, raise your cultivation base as soon as possible. After finishing his words, Yi Xian waved his hand. Flying Centipede, Old Monster Silver G and the 8 great guardian deities were filled with joy. They turned around and entered seclusion again. Just as Yi Xian turned around and was about to leave, another figure flew over from the distant mountains. It was Shi Wanjin, who had the lightning poison calamity body. Looking at his cultivation base, he had actually reached the immortal realm and was at rank 3 immortal realm. This kind of cultivation speed was much faster than that of the 8 great guardian deities. Moreover, when he broke through to the immortal realm, it seemed that the level 20 elixir was useless. This was clearly because of the lightning poison calamity body, which was comparable to Yi Xian's devouring treasured body. When the accumulation of energy reached the bottleneck, the breakthrough would be natural, just like how water flows when the conditions are right. Master, I want to go outside. Shi Wanjin directly knelt down when he arrived in front of Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian quickly waved his hand and lifted him up with a gentle force. He didn't like this kind of situation and wasn't used to it. Go out. Hearing Shi Wanjin's words, Yi Xian frowned and fell into deep thought. Although the cultivation speed here is not slow, relying only on the cultivation resources given by Master is ultimately too. I've already used up the last one. A trace of embarrassment appeared on Shi Wanjin's face. Although his soul had been refined by Yi Xian and he had become a slave, his intelligence and emotions had not been lost. Therefore, he still had a variety of rich expressions. He was not like a robot. However, he was cold and wooden. It's all used up? Yi Xian was startled, but at the same time, he understood Shi Wanjin's meaning. This guy obviously disliked the restrictions in the space inside the Shenong cauldron. Although there were spiritual beasts and various spiritual herbs growing in the space inside the cauldron, those were resources that belonged to Yi Xian. He did not dare to take them without asking. Therefore, once the cultivation resources at hand were used up, his cultivation strength would naturally stagnate. On the contrary, it was different in the outside world. Although his lightning poison calamity body was inferior to the devouring treasured body of Yi Xian's doppelganger, they were basically the same. That was pure plundering and devouring. There were all kinds of resources in the void outside. Even the heat of the stars could be freely devoured by his physique. Once he entered the wider space outside, the speed at which Shi Wanjin's cultivation strength improved would definitely increase. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it would soar by a large margin. Furthermore, because he was refined by Yi Xian's mutated slave seal from the level of his divine soul, this process was irreversible. Therefore, even if he were to let Shi Wanjin go outside and allow him to freely grow, even if one day, his cultivation strength would be reduced to nothing. Someday, his strength would be far beyond Yi Xian's own. It was absolutely impossible for something like betrayal to happen. Even if it did happen, Yi Xian could still decide Shi Wanjin's life and death with a single thought, even if his cultivation was not as strong as his. In that case, there was no need to worry about anything anymore. With this in mind, Yi Xian immediately made a decision. He nodded and said, "If that's the case, I'll send you out. Remember, although the improvement of cultivation strength is important, nothing is more important than your own life. You survived the calamity, so this Star Master need not worry that you will meet with danger outside and die prematurely. In short, think twice before you act, and be careful first." Chapter 4278. After sending Shi Wanjin away, Yi Xian also walked out of the Shenong cauldron. After waving his hand to keep the cauldron, he directly summoned the wild dragon cauldron. After stepping into it, Yi Xian immediately came to the level where the 10,000 demon scouts led by Gui Hai Yi Dao and Song Qingyu were. Only a small portion of the demon scouts had just come out of seclusion, and their cultivation had improved greatly, which made Yi Xian quite satisfied. However, Gui Hai Yi Dao, Song Qingyu, Ying Tai, and the others were still in seclusion, so Yi Xian did not see them. After leaving behind a batch of cultivation resources, including the purple gold flesh medicine, he immediately left the life giant fortress and put it away with a wave of his hand. He fell into deep thought and began to think about the future of the four great battle stars. The four great battle stars could be said to have made great contributions when Yi Xian was in the first universe of the three main dimensions of the starry sky. Before Yi Xian entered this void fragment of the primeval world, the four great battle stars still had a lot of value to him at that time. But now, Yi Xian's cultivation and strength were far from what it was in the past. The four great battle stars had long become useless to him now. If he used them, he would not be able to use them at all. However, if he gave up just like that, he was unwilling. After all, he had created them himself, and he had made great contributions. The terrifying power of the starry sky battle stars is reflected in two aspects. After falling into deep thought, Yi Xian muttered to himself, first, the battle stars themselves, related to their structure and materials. In this aspect, it can be upgraded, and it is not a big problem. Give an order to the devouring system, start deducing, and find the best way to upgrade. After the case and the required materials, once everything is ready, the forging system can be activated and the upgrade can be started. Second, the kinetic energy community of the battle stars. This is a bit of a headache. The kinetic energy community of the four great battle stars is extremely large, and the energy needed for evolution is not easy to find. This was what troubled him the most. In the void battle stars, there were 2 9-star emperor ladles, 10 8-star king ladles, and tens of millions of void soldier ladles of different grades. However, their cultivation and strength were generally low. It was the same for the Weeping Soul Battle Gorilla. After absorbing a large amount of hellish ant elixir, the Weeping Soul Beast had evolved into a Weeping Soul Golden Ape and a large number of Weeping Soul Violet Apes. However, their cultivation was still relatively weak. The same was true for the Lapis Gold Slime and the Purple Gold Slime in the Battle of Time. Even Shui Ben, the Emperor of the Mosquito Beasts, was only a Star Lord at the moment. There were also tens of millions of other ferocious mosquito beasts, but they were mostly below the universe state. There were only 1,000 almighty beasts. Yi Xian's current strength was far from enough. To Xian they were just like ants. The flesh medicine refined by the survivors of the primordial era can strengthen the bloodline of the Void Soldier Ladle, the Weeping Soul Beast, the Slime, and the Blood Mosquito Beast of the 4 Great Warring States. However, it is not as good as those special resources that have a strong effect on them. As Yi Xian muttered to himself, his eyes once again shone with a brilliant light. In that case, we can first provide a large amount of flesh and medicine so that the 4 Great Wars kinetic races can slowly improve their strength and strengthen their foundation. At the same time, we can start searching in this vast void. We can find special resources that are very useful for the 4 Great Wars kinetic races. After making his decision, Yi Xian immediately waved his hand and summoned the 4 Great Battle Talons. With a wave of his hand, a canopy of top-grade flesh and blood medicine and various other top-grade resources that were effective for the 4 Great Battle Talons were all sent out by him. Screech! Screech! Sensing the aura of the top-level training resources and the flesh medicine, the 4 races inside the war drums all roared in excitement. They seemed to be very excited and overjoyed. Yi Xian had been busy improving his strength recently. He hadn't summoned the 4 Great Wars kinetic races for a long time. The 4 Great Wars kinetic races had been trapped in the undying world for a long time. They were all overjoyed to finally be able to take a breather. Fine, fine. I'll let you take a breather for a while. However, nobody is allowed to leave the atmosphere of this planet, or my identity will be exposed. Shaking his head with a bitter smile, Yi Xian immediately gave orders to the 4 Great Wars kinetic races with his divine sense. Hum. Hum hum hum. Dense humming noises were heard from the 4 Great Wars kinetic races. A lot of void soldiers, weeping soul beasts, slimes and blood mosquito beasts all rushed out of the Great Wars kinetic races in delight. In an instant, they spread out in the interior of this planet and went to torment each other. Whoosh! A sharp sound echoed as a streak of blood dotted over and hovered in front of Yi Xian. It was exactly Shui Ben, the Mosquito Prince. At that moment, Shui Ben had already broken through to the Star-Lord state. Although the gap between him and Yi Xian was getting bigger and bigger, the speed at which his strength increased wasn't slow. It could even be said to be extremely fast. The crazed bloodlust in his eyes had also faded a lot compared to before. It was obvious that his madness was slowly being healed with the increase of his cultivation level. Seeing this scene, a warm feeling flashed through Yi Xian's heart, and his gaze also became gentle. Brother Shui Ben, do you still remember when I became sworn brothers with you on the Mad Mosquito Star? Forget it. You were completely crazy back then, and your consciousness was gone. Of course, you don't remember anything when you were sober. I was just lamenting. I didn't know that I'd come this far. Yi Xian shook his head, sighed, and smiled bitterly. Don't worry. I'll make sure that you reach the immortal state as soon as possible. According to my deduction, when you break through to the immortal state, the evolution of your life level will take place. It'll be a huge leap change, and your innate madness will be cured in one day. Screech! As if he had understood what Yi Xian meant, Prince Shui Ben raised his head and let out a long roar of joy. He nodded at Yi Xian and didn't stay any longer. The huge wings on his back flapped fiercely, and a buzzing sound came. His figure instantly turned into a bloody light and shot into the distance. In an instant, he disappeared at the end of the line of sight inside the star. Boss, are you in seclusion? If not, please come out first. It was also at this moment that Blue Ox's voice suddenly echoed outside the atmosphere of the planet. There's a place at the edge of the Blood Phoenix Forbidden Land. According to what you said, it should be a black hole. A lot of weird warships suddenly rushed out of that black hole, just like the captive army. Those guys seem to be from the same place as you. Boss, come out quickly and see if they're friend or foe. Chapter 4279. There was indeed a black hole at the edge of Phoenix Bloodstar Zone. It was much larger than the black hole that Xian had created in Mulberry Tree Star Zone. This black hole had been quiet for a long time. It was connected to the dark void of space that Xian had come from, which was connected to Shadow Devil Star Zone of the second universe. However, that dark void was too vast. Although the fleets of the three main planes of the universe had entered the dark void of space from Shadow Devil Star Zone more than 2 years ago, and there were so many of them that they were almost uncountable, there was not a single fleet, or a solitary powerhouse of the present age. Through this black hole, they had entered Phoenix Blood Star Zone. Until today, a fleet had finally arrived. Hong long long. Hong. The earth-shattering noises of kinetic energy cabins were heard. 1,000 enormous fleets rushed out of the black hole and entered the edge of Phoenix Blood Star Zone. If Xian had been here, he would have recognized the origin of this fleet at first glance. This fleet was the joint fleet of the human race and the Wanluo Federation from the third universe, one of the three main planes of the universe. The fleet had about 30 million battleships and battleships. The Senlon fleet of the Wanluo Federation had 10 million battleships. Of the two camps of the human race, the Undying Army of the Undying Dynasty had 10 million battleships. The 10 absolute heavenly palaces of the Cultivation camp had 10 million battleships of all kinds. The highest commander of this joint fleet was not one person, but 3 undying marquises. They were Yu Ling Long, a great being from the Crystal Clan from the Wanluo Federation, Long Pai, a senior marquis from the Undying Dynasty, and 10 absolute heavenly palaces. There was also a vice-leader of Tianju Palace named Gong Jun. These 3 marquises had extremely high statuses. They sat in the core strongholds of the 3 fleets and did not interfere with any specific affairs. They would only intervene when there was a major change, such as when the fleet was in danger. Usually, all the affairs of the joint fleet were decided by the undying old monsters of the 3 forces. In this expedition to the domain of Shadow Devil, both the headquarters of the Myriad Luo Federation and the 2 major human forces each had a fleet with a fleet of over 10 million soldiers and 10 immortal realm experts in terms of high-end battle force. With the 3 great powers added together, the number of immortal realm old monsters reached 30. Among them, Xian's old acquaintances, the elephant fox eagle, Long Shan Tang, and Gong Hua were all included. Elephant fox ferret, like the 3-clawed dragon, had secretly surrendered to Xian. However, only him and 3-clawed dragon knew about this. Even the headquarters of the Blood Dragon clan and the headquarters of the Wanluo Federation knew nothing. After all, after Xian took the 2 of them under his command, he hadn't taken any action against their strength, nor had he given any orders or missions. Naturally, there was no possibility of him being exposed. At this moment, in another core flagship outside the 3 core flagships, in the command cabin on the top floor, the 30 immortal old monsters from the Myriad Luo Federation, the Immortal Dynasty, and the 10 Extreme Heavenly Palace were gathered together for an emergency meeting. The most recent such meeting was half a year ago. Ever since they entered the dark void from the mysterious passage in the Shadow Devil Star Zone of Universe 2, the entire joint fleet had been wandering in the boundless dark void. Before they knew it, more than 2 years had passed. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed. The dark void was too vast, and there were very few abandoned stars in it. The entire void was almost completely empty, let alone a star with life. For the past 3 years, the entire fleet had been traveling aimlessly through the dark void. Almost everyone had been driven crazy. Xian had felt this way before and had almost gone crazy, until he passed through the screen of light and entered the scene. In the void of the universe where he was located. This time, when the coalition fleet finally rushed out of the black hole after 3 years of boring space travel and saw the bright world, the whole fleet was boiling with excitement. Everybody was cheering and jumping for joy. The reason why the 30 immortal old monsters, including Elephant Fox Ferret, Long Shan Tang, and Gong Huaji, held a meeting of the highest level of immortal old monsters after half a year was to discuss the follow-up plan. Although we've just arrived at this void and don't know much about it, we've already scanned the general situation of the void within 100 million miles of it just now. In the meeting, the immortal old monsters who happened to be in charge of duty for the next 3 months spoke one after another. Their faces were full of excitement, and their voices were full of uncontrollable excitement. The other undyings present were all the same, as though they had just been injected with chicken blood, forcefully suppressing their excitement as they patiently listened to the initial reports from the undyings on duty. Within a circumference of 100 million miles, we've already detected over 500 life stars. The situation of such a high density of life stars was extremely rare even in the 3 major starry sky main planes of the world. From this it could be inferred that in this void space. Based on this, we can infer that the resources in this void are definitely abundant. That's right. The unknown world we have entered is a super big gold mine that has never been excavated before. All kinds of resources are waiting for us to harvest. Of course, since there are planets with life, there will naturally be life as well. However, according to the preliminary detection results, among the 500 planets with life within 100 million miles of the void, the most powerful aura is only at the universe grade. However, this is the data of all the planets with life. As for the planets with life, due to the isolation of the atmosphere, we can't get more detailed information about the specific situation. As for the structure of life, the creatures wandering in the void are basically all kinds of ferocious space beasts. Although they are strong, in the face of 30 immortal old monsters, they are just chickens and pottery dogs. The most powerful ones are dozens of universe-grade ferocious beasts. One of us can deal with them. In addition to the ferocious beasts, there are some battleships similar to those of the self-cultivator camp patrolling the void, but they are more ancient. If I'm not mistaken, there should be some tribes of the primordial era in this void. These ancient battleships should belong to them. After explaining the situation, the immortal old monsters on duty stopped talking. Only one of them turned around and glanced at all the immortal old monsters before saying, "Everyone, my opinion is to be conservative. First, we should concentrate our power and launch a salvo attack on the nearest life star. This way we can test the reaction of the other life stars. If there are beings stronger than ordinary immortals, then we have to be careful. Of course, if there are only 1 or 2 marquee-level immortals, they can't escape being enslaved. And if there are too many of them, we can retreat immediately and return to the dark void where we came from. What do you think?" Seconded. Chapter 4280. The 30 immortal old monsters of the Joint Fleet unanimously approved of the operation plan of the probing attack, and immediately issued the battle order. The entire huge Joint Fleet remained in the cosmic void that was only 10 million miles away from the huge light screen behind them. Only 6 million battleships set off from the main fleet. The 1,000 Luo Federation, the Immortal Dynasty, and the Tenju Celestial Palace each mobilized 2 million battleships. As for the 3 small fleets, the highest battle commanders were 3 immortal old monsters from the 3 major forces. Coincidentally, these 3 old guys were Yi Xian's old acquaintances: Elephant Fox Martin, Dragon Mountain Tang, and Gong Huaji. Yi Xian did not know all of this. If he knew, he would probably be speechless on the spot. The affairs of the world were really unpredictable. Such a coincidence actually happened. Rumble. The roar of the kinetic energy cabins fully opened instantly resounded through the void. The 6 million battleships were divided into 3 small armies. They lined up in a row and moved forward. The target chosen by this vanguard fleet was 50 million miles ahead. It was a life star at the edge of the forbidden land of Phoenix Blood. On this life star, there was only a small army of ferocious beasts that had just been taken in by Green Ox. There were only slightly more than 100,000 ferocious beasts in total. Although there was an immortal old monster, he was currently in seclusion and did not know what was happening in the outside world. Everything was happening. In fact, even if he knew, this immortal old monster would not rush out of the star's atmosphere. This was because after Yi Xian received Green Ox's divine sense voice transmission, he immediately issued an order. All combat forces above the immortal old monster were not allowed to show themselves. Those who were not in seclusion were all to wait in the atmosphere of the star where they had landed. Even the survivors and ferocious beasts below the immortal old monster were not allowed to leave the atmosphere at will during wartime. In this battle, Green Ox had full authority to command, and the captive army was in charge of the specific battle matters. The reason for this arrangement was perhaps that Yi Xian wanted to test the loyalty of the captive army. After all, Yi Xian did not reveal his identity to them. In the eyes of all the powerhouses in the captive army, he was a native of this fragment of void, a star-ferocious ape that did not come from the same world as them. Previously, they had only launched a punitive expedition to the starry sky forbidden areas in this void fragment. Therefore, the captive warriors of the present age naturally did not feel any psychological pressure. And now, Yi Xian had asked them to deal with the forces from the 3 main planes of the universe. Their loyalty could be tested in an instant. Yi Xian even specially instructed the Green Ox not to show himself. He gave the specific command of the battle to the 3-clawed flood dragon and the other captive council members who had just broken through to the marquee level Undying, allowing them to lead the entire captive army and charge forward. Up ahead. If the three-clawed serpent dragon and the other leaders of the captive council had second thoughts, they would take this opportunity to gather the entire captive army with the joint fleet that had just arrived and hastily retreat into the black hole ahead. Then, Yi Xian would naturally have a way to deal with them. Of course, Yi Xian didn't want to see that happen either. He was quite confident in the results of this test. Similarly, the three undying old monsters in the vanguard camp of the joint fleet did not know about Yi Xian's orders. A distance of 50 million miles was not too far for space battleships, not to mention that the vanguard fleet was basically made up of fortresses and strongholds of various sizes, as well as cultivator battleships of similar performance and power, so they were faster. Therefore, it only took about 1 hour for the three small armies of the vanguard fleet to arrive 10 million miles away from the target star. They lined up in the void and adjusted the angles of their cannons to aim at the star that had 100,000 ferocious beasts in it from afar. The Star of Life. All battleships, fire 3 rounds in a row. Fire. Hong. Hong, hong, hong. Following Long Shantong's order, the 6 million battleships and battleships of the vanguard fleet 10 million miles away opened fire at the same time. In the void, the roar resounded. Energy light pillars from the battleship's cannons interweaved like a light net, shooting in the void. It was dazzling, and no one dared to look at it directly. Even Yi Xian and the Green Ox did not expect this group of people to be so black-bellied. The moment they arrived, they set their sights on a star of life at the outermost edge. Without saying anything, they did not even test it. The 6 million battleships and battleships opened fire at the first moment. What's more, they opened fire at the same time. The Green Ox was immediately enraged. However, he did not disobey Yi Xian's previous orders. He did not dare to show himself. Instead, he used his divine senses to enter the atmosphere of the target star and inform the more than 100,000 ferocious beasts in the star to rush out from the other side of the star's atmosphere. They left the void and retreated to the back. Now that he was a king-ranked being, he deliberately concealed his divine sense. Even the 3 marquee undyings in the Alliance fleet were unable to detect it. Roar. Roar. Screech. In the target star, a large number of ferocious beasts roared and bellowed. More than 100,000 ferocious beasts from the Forbidden Lands retreated immediately. They rushed out from the other side of the star's atmosphere and did not even stop. They shot straight into the depths of the Forbidden Land of Phoenix Blood ahead. They were moving to another life star. Although they were furious, they did not dare to disobey the Green Ox's orders. The Green Ox had already made it clear to them that the captive army would be in charge of this battle. Boom! Rumble! An earth-shattering explosion was heard. The target star, under the bombardment of the 6 million energy light pillars from the battleship's cannons, exploded in an instant. It turned into a huge fireball that illuminated the entire Forbidden Land of Phoenix Blood. However, due to the Green Ox's timely notification, all the more than 100,000 ferocious beasts from the Forbidden Lands in this life star had retreated from the other side of the star's atmosphere before the energy light pillars from the battleship's cannons descended. Hence, there were no injuries. However, the collective escape of more than 100,000 ferocious beasts from the Forbidden Lands, including dozens of universe grades. When such a scene fell into the eyes of the elephant fox ferret, Long Shantang, and Gong Huaji, there was no doubt that there were too many problems. The 3 old fellows immediately raised their heads and laughed. In their opinion, this test was quite successful, and the results seemed to be very satisfactory. Did you see that? There are more than 100,000 ferocious beasts, including dozens of universe grades. However, when faced with our attack, they immediately turned and fled. They did not even have the courage to fight. This shows that they are not very confident. From another perspective, it also shows that it is impossible for a marquis to exist in this void. Otherwise, why would they be so lacking in confidence? Not only is there no marquis, in my opinion, there are probably no undying old monsters. There is no need to test anymore. Report back immediately. The army can set off and launch an all-out attack. Chapter 4281. At the end of the void in front of his line of sight, a large number of starry sky battleships were rushing out from inside the life stars. There were more than 400 of these life stars stationed with starry sky battleships, and more than 500 life stars with a radius of 100 million kilometers. Almost 80% of them were occupied. And the number of space battleships rushing out from each life star was even larger, and they were well trained. After rushing out of the atmosphere, they gathered in the void very skillfully. But all of this was not the reason why Elephant Fox Ferret, Long Shantang, and Gong Huaji were stunned. The real reason was that these space battleships were not only large in number, but also very familiar. Looking at the huge logo painted on the surface of the battleships, they were clearly the battleship armies from the three main planes of the universe. To be more specific, they should be from the various races of the second universe, which basically accounted for half of the top 10 races. In addition, there were some small fleets with the logo of unknown second-rate forces and even space pirate gangs on the battleships. Some of them even had the logo of the Blue Fleet of the Third Universe's Wanluo Federation. In just a dozen minutes, the number of starships that rushed out from the more than 400 life stars had exceeded 30 million, and it was still increasing. Their total strength had already exceeded the joint fleet that had just arrived. More importantly, although the main body of this huge fleet that suddenly appeared was half of the races of the second universe, there were also some small races of the first universe, some second-rate forces of the third universe, space pirate gangs, and even small forces of the Wanluo Federation. This fleet was simply a hodgepodge. It was really hard to imagine how these fleets of various forces, which had complicated relationships with each other, could gather together and get along so harmoniously. Damn, what happened? What a powerful miscellaneous army. There is actually a small fleet of about 100,000 battleships from the headquarters of the Myriad Sift Federation. By the way, when we first entered the Dark Void, didn't we send a vanguard fleet to explore the area ahead? Then it disappeared. So, after all this time it's actually here? What's going on? They are actually working together with the fleets of the second universe, as well as the second-rate forces of the third universe and even the space pirates. I suddenly feel a little dizzy. My head hurts. In fact, it wasn't just the three old guys who had a headache. In the entire Vanguard fleet, and even in the huge Alliance fleet 40 million miles behind them, from the immortal old monsters to the ordinary soldiers, all the experts in the world had a kind of brain at this moment. He was dumbfounded. The scene in front of him was too inconceivable, too incomprehensible, and not scientific at all. Who is the commander of the fleet ahead? I am the three-clawed flood dragon, the highest commander of this fleet. While everyone was still in a daze, at the far end of the void in front of them, a large number of battleships had rushed out from the more than 400 life stars. They had completely assembled into an army and were sailing over at an extremely fast speed. At the same time, a voice filled with insolence and arrogance rang out from one of the flagship fortresses at the center of this army of over 100 million warships. However, it was transmitted through the starry sky loudspeaker system of the flagship fortress. Therefore, the voice was extremely powerful. It was impossible to sense the cultivation level of the person who spoke. This kind of core flagship had a special isolation array. Together with the three-clawed flood dragon's power, even an immortal lord of the same level couldn't detect it. Three-clawed flood dragon? It's him? Elephant Fox Ferret was stunned for a moment and quickly frowned. Based on his understanding of the three-clawed flood dragon, he shouldn't have behaved like this. One had to know that due to the information leak and the sudden arrival of the Dark Furnace, the allied forces of the various races of the second universe had entered as soon as possible. When they entered the Dark Void, there were no immortal lords in the fleets that had set out at that time. This was something that the few major forces that had entered later had already ascertained and confirmed. And the three-clawed flood dragon hadn't even figured out whether there were any immortal lords in the Alliance fleet, yet his tone was so arrogant. It was really unlike his cautious personality. Just as Elephant Fox Ferret was feeling suspicious, Long Shantang and Gong Huaji, who were beside him, laughed loudly. They naturally knew that when the allied forces of the second universe entered, there were no immortal lords in the Alliance fleet because it was too hasty. This way, even if the enemy's fleet was larger, there was nothing to be afraid of. In fact, it was a good thing. They could capture the enemy and increase the strength of their fleets. Three-clawed flood dragon? An undying elder of the Blood Flood Dragon clan? Supreme Commander? Isn't he just an ordinary immortal lord? Who gave you the guts to be so arrogant? The size of the fleet is not bad. Although there are many miscellaneous troops mixed in, their combat power is solid. There are hundreds of millions of different types of battleships. It's really enviable. Unfortunately, although the fleet is large, its high-end combat power is its weakness. Without an immortal lord, no matter how many battleships there are, it's useless. Three-clawed flood dragon, there's no need to continue this battle. Without an immortal lord, you can only surrender or fight. Death is the only two choices. Roar. Fight your mother to death. As soon as Gong Huaji's words fell, an earth-shattering roar came from the core flagship fortress of the Central Territory where the army was rumbling over. Then, the three-clawed flood dragon spoke even more arrogantly. Who said we don't have an immortal lord? Isn't your grandfather one? If you have the ability, don't be a coward. Come out, I'll kill you with one claw. Hong! As soon as the arrogant words fell, a roar sounded. From the core flagship fortress, a figure rushed out at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it was already at the front of the entire army of over 100 million that was rumbling over. After a pause, the figure was suspended in the void. It was a blood-colored flood dragon with a body of 100,000 feet. It was the three-clawed flood dragon. At this time, the aura emitted from its body was actually that of an immortal lord. Although it was only a first-stage immortal lord, it was already an immortal lord after all. At this moment, the three-clawed flood dragon could be said to be proud of its success. Of the 98 immortal lords who had captured the council, a total of 18 of them had already broken through to the immortal lord level. Originally, this opportunity to show off in front of the Third Universe's joint fleet would never be his. The reason this guy could show off so much and even claim to be the supreme commander of this huge fleet was because he was lucky enough to draw lots with the other 17 immortal lords who had just broken through. At this moment, as he rushed out of the core flagship fortress and showed off his bloodline true body, in the vanguard fleet tens of millions of miles away, the three immortal lords, Elephant Fox Mink, Long Shan, and Gong Huaji gasped in shock. Sound. Chapter 4282. Undying Marquis? This guy actually made a breakthrough? Damn it, he got here before us. He must have obtained some good fortune here. What a lucky bastard. Looking at the high-spirited three-clawed dragon, Gong Huaji and Long Shan were stunned for a moment. Then their expressions changed drastically, and they clenched their teeth and stamped their feet in the command cabin on the top floor of the core flagship. Even the silent elephant fox ferret's expression changed slightly. He frowned and looked unwilling. Compared to the three-clawed dragon, the three of them were not weak at all. Now they were all at the 7th level of the Undying Realm. Nearly 3 years ago, the three-clawed dragon was at the same level, but now, in the blink of an eye, it had made a breakthrough to the 7th level of the Undying Realm. To be conferred the title of Marquis, there was simply nothing more devastating than this. Especially when they thought about how there was a 90% chance that the other party was able to achieve such astonishing achievements because he had entered this unknown void that was rich in resources ahead of time and obtained some kind of great benefits and great fortune. The hearts of three people, the unwillingness in their hearts grew stronger in an instant. As this unwillingness spread in their hearts, the three of them were instantly filled with resentment. The elephant fox ferret did not say anything. After all, he and the three-clawed dragon shared a common secret, which was that both of them had surrendered to Xianxia, the Star Master of Sky River Star. Therefore, even though he was full of resentment, he did not dare to say anything. After all, the three-clawed dragon was already a marquis. Even if Xianxia, the Star Master of Sky River Star, was here, he would not be afraid. Of course, that was if he did not have the restriction of the oath he had made. However, he was different. In the past 3 years, his strength had not improved at all. He had wasted all his time in the endless anxiety of the endless interstellar travel. Under such circumstances, if he annoyed the three-clawed dragon, it could easily expose the fact that he had surrendered to Sky River Star. At that time, the three-clawed dragon would not care, but he would be the one in trouble. However, the elephant fox ferret did not dare to say anything, but it did not mean that Gong Huaji and Long Shan were the same. Don't forget that in the Alliance fleet 40 million miles behind them, there were 3 Marquis Undying Realm Masters. These 3 were from the Wan Luo Federation, the Undying Dynasty, and the 10 Absolute Sky Palace. They were all at level 5 or 6, and any one of them could stun the three-clawed dragon. Even if the 3 Marquis level Undyings were to attack together and combine their auras to lock onto the three-clawed flood dragon, he wouldn't even have the chance to teleport away. Thinking about this, Long Shan and Gong Huaji exchanged a look and immediately came to a tacit agreement. They decided to use words to anger the other party. It would be best to make him speak even more arrogantly and arrogantly to the end. Several officials appeared and worked together to suppress the enemy. Regardless of whether he would be able to obtain any benefits from the other party after suppressing it, at least he would be able to resolve the resentment in his heart. Besides, since the three-clawed flood dragon was able to break through to the Marquis level so quickly, it must have obtained something extraordinary. As long as he could capture creation, he would be able to obtain some important information from him. This thought instantly moved the two of them. They ignored the silent elephantine and immediately started provoking him. Three-clawed flood dragon, surrender immediately. Hand over your battleship army and everything related to this void. If you do, I can spare your life today. That's right. You only have 10 breaths of time. Once 10 breaths have passed, everything will be too late. You've just become a marquis, what's the big deal? Let me tell you the truth, our alliance fleet has 3 mid-level officials, some close to late-level officials. Suppressing you is like crushing an ant. Roar! Crush your mother's old mother. Before Long Shantung and Gong Huaji could finish their words, the three-clawed flood dragon roared from thousands of miles away. Do you think your grandpa flood dragon is scared? Don't talk about your bragging, even if there really are 3 of you in the alliance army behind you. Grandpa Jiao can beat the crap out of them and make them kneel down and call him father. He was truly furious. The captive council had a total of 18 officials who had just broken through. Was it easy to win the lottery? He originally wanted to jump out and show off in front of his old friends. Who would have thought that before he could even find the feeling, he would be scared? He was scared by the enemy's words. If he was truly afraid of him, that would be fine. However, in reality that was far from it. Not to mention that there were only 3 officials in the alliance fleet. Even if there were 3 emperors, they wouldn't be able to scare him. His backer was an emperor level 8, close to perfection. If there were 3 emperors at the same level, he would be crushed on the spot. Because of this, facing Long Shantung and Gong Huaji's threats, the three-clawed flood dragon wasn't afraid at all. He even said that he would beat the 3 officials until they kneeled down and called him father. This was too arrogant. He was only an official level 1, yet he acted like an emperor level 1. He actually said that he would make the 3 mid-level officials kneel down and call him father. Even an emperor level official with a good temper wouldn't be able to do such a thing. He couldn't hold it in. At the same time, 3 earth-shattering roars drifted from the joint fleet behind the vanguard fleet. Li! Little brat, you just broke through, you even forgot who your father is. Such arrogance, those who don't know would think that you've met an emperor. Since he doesn't have any manners, then we'll teach him how to be a human. No, this guy isn't even human, he's a beast. Teach him how to be a beast. Howl! As the furious roars sounded, 3 beams of light blasted out from the 3 flagship fortresses of the coalition fleet. His speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, he had already traversed a distance of more than 40 million kilometers. His figure was extremely fast, and he had already arrived in front of the vanguard fleet led by the Elephant Fox Martin, Long Shantung, and Gong Huaji. The 3 officials were the Crystal Clan warrior Yu Ling Long from the Myriad Luo Federation, the elder Long Mang from the Undying Dynasty, and the last was a vice palace leader from Tianju Palace, named Gong Jun. Yu Ling Long was a crystal life form, and her form was that of a young lady. She had a graceful figure and a graceful bearing. The other 2 were human males. They were from the 2 major camps of the human race, and they looked to be in their 50s. Chapter 4283. With the arrival of the 3 marquis-level Undyings, the space within 100 million miles fell into complete silence. Even the hundreds of millions of warships of various types that were surging close behind the 3-clawed dragons stopped in the void 10 million kilometers away. They closed the engine cabins and waited in silence. It seemed that they were frightened by the sudden arrival of the 3 marquis-level Undyings. Such a scene made Yu Ling Long, Long Ao, and Gong Jun extremely satisfied. They enjoyed the feeling of the space stagnating and the atmosphere instantly becoming heavy and stagnant. Especially after being publicly provoked by an ignorant fellow who had just become a marquis. Little Loach, are you scared, silly? Weren't you very arrogant just now? Why are you suddenly so quiet? You must be feeling high after becoming a marquis, right? But you're obviously a bit too excited and forgot your place. Come here and kneel. Facing 3 middle marquis-level Undyings, you should tuck your tail between your legs and beg for mercy. That way, maybe I can choose to forget about your disrespect just now and let you live. In front of them, the 3 marquis-level Undyings sneered and locked onto the 3-clawed flood dragon. Their tone was full of arrogance, and they were obviously slapping the flood dragon's face. This was indeed satisfying. Even the noble marquis-level Undyings were in a good mood now. At their level, it was hard to meet someone who dared to provoke them. Today they finally met one, and these 3 marquis-level Undyings who had long forgotten about this kind of fun unknowingly found the feeling. Their ferocious expressions were full of joy. Facing all this, the 3-clawed flood dragon's expression became weird. It glanced at the 3 middle marquis-level Undyings and said faintly, Are you guys bullying me with numbers? Ha ha ha. Little Loach, you're quite interesting. You're so quiet now. Compared to your arrogance before, this is quite interesting. That's right. We're bullying you with numbers. What's wrong? You don't like it? The three Undyings laughed loudly. They had been high and mighty for a long time, and they hadn't had such fun in a long time. This feeling of being slapped in the face made them feel like they were back to the days before they became Undyings. As they sighed inwardly, their interest was piqued. Although a dignified middle-stage marquis didn't need to overwhelm a beginner marquis with numbers, they still followed the three-clawed flood dragon's words and admitted this point. It was all because they suddenly felt that today's matter was quite interesting. However, the development of the entire incident was completely different from what they had imagined. It did not develop according to the plot they had expected. It could even be said that there was a complete reversal that no one had expected. It's not good to bully people like this. The three-clawed flood dragon sighed in the face of the three marquis-level Undyings and suddenly changed the topic. But since you guys like it, Grandpa Flood Dragon can only do as the Romans do. Brothers, come out. They're bullying me. I'm alone. The last sentence was uttered by the three-clawed flood dragon as it raised its head and roared. Howl! See! As his last roar fell, the core flagship fortress of the captive army behind him immediately responded with a series of roars and screams. Over 10 silhouettes rushed out from the core, all of them emitting shocking auras. They were all marquis-level Undyings. In the blink of an eye, 17 lights shot out and stood on the left and right of the three-clawed flood dragon. Including him, there were a total of 18 marquis-level Undyings, lined up in a row. The void once again fell into a complete silence, but it was only for a very short time. Then, a large wave of gasps and cries of surprise rang out like a tide. My God, what's going on? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Or am I hallucinating? 18 marquis-level Undyings. This is too shocking. That's not the main point. Even 18 first-level marquis-level ones can't beat 3 middle-level marquis-level ones. The main point is their cultivation level. Right, they're all new-level marquis-level ones. They obviously just broke through. Of the 18, I can even name half of them. 3 years ago, they were all normal Undyings. Fortune. A huge fortune. In this unknown void, there must be some kind of great fortune that we don't know about. It actually allowed these fellows to break through to the titled Marquis realm. As the exclamations resounded, within the vanguard fleet 10 million miles away, Long Shan Tang and Gong Hua Ji panted heavily. They immediately roared and were extremely excited, impatiently requesting for help. How? We definitely cannot let them go. Seniors, with your strength, even 18 first-level Marquis level 1 Undyings can be easily suppressed. These fellows hold a shocking secret. The moment we learn about it, our combined fleet strength will greatly increase, and more Marquis-level Undyings will appear. In fact, there was no need for the two of them to remind him. In front of the vanguard fleet, when the 18 Undyings appeared, Yu Linglong, Long Chong, and Gong Jun were only stunned for a short moment, and then their eyes blazed with passion. Their eyes gleamed brightly. Their reactions were much faster than Gong Huaji and Long Shan Tang, almost instantly realizing the significance of these 18 officials. Howl! Little bastards, you've all been captured. Surrender immediately and tell us the secret, otherwise, we'll kill without mercy. I'll give you 10 breaths of time. After 10 breaths of time, the 18 Marquis will be killed every 3 breaths of time until you submit. Hearing these words, Tang Yi and Gong Hua, who were in the core flagship fortress of the vanguard fleet, instantly became excited. Even the elephant fox Martin, who had always felt that something was wrong, and had never said a word before, was shocked. Even the elephant fox Martin, who had always felt that something was wrong, had never said a word before. He was trembling slightly. After all, this was the temptation of breaking through to the Marquis level. He couldn't resist it. Strangely, facing all this, the 18 Marquis level 1 lined up 10 million miles away didn't panic at all. It was almost as though they didn't realize that Yu Linglong, Long Chong and Gong Jun were all mid-level Undyings, and definitely had the strength to suppress them. Chapter 4284. Roar! Screech! As soon as the three-clawed WM's voice trailed off, a series of thunderous roars and howls instantly rang out in response from the planets in the distance behind them. Then, more than a dozen figures rushed out of the stars and transformed into rays of light. In the blink of an eye, They traversed tens of millions of miles and arrived at the front line where the two armies were facing each other. They stopped abruptly beside the three-clawed flood dragon and the others. Another 16 Marquis Undyings. 6 of them were from the survivor tribe, and 6 of the 12 tribe leaders of the survivor tribe. They had followed Yi Xian for more than a year, and under the never-ending top-notch flesh and blood medicine, as well as the solid foundation they had in the past, thanks to their solid foundation, 6 of them had already broken through to the Marquis level. However, like the three-clawed flood dragon and the others, they were only level 1 Marquis level 1 Undyings level. The other 10 were the 10 Marquis level ferocious beast leaders that Green Ox had taken in the previous battle. Their cultivation levels were uneven. 2 of them were first-order Marquis, 3 were third-order Marquis, and the other 5 were fourth-order Marquis, 1 was fifth-order Marquis, and the last 3 were sixth-order Marquis. In the blink of an eye, there were 34 Marquis-level Undyings lined up in a row in the void. This was the total number of Marquis-level Undyings that Yi Xian had shown on the surface. Among them, the 3 level 6 Marquis-level ferocious beast leaders were enough to suppress Yu Linglong, Long Xiao, and Gong Jun. This was what it meant to bully with numbers. Don't you have 3 Marquis-level Undyings? Sure, I'll gather a team of 30 Marquis-level Undyings. 10 against 1, I guarantee you'll be crushed. The three-clawed flood dragon didn't say these words, but everyone had already deeply understood what he was thinking. The void fell into complete silence for the third time. The atmosphere was so oppressive that it was far more oppressive than the previous 2 times. Even Yu Linglong, Long Ao, and Gong Jun had their mouths wide open. Their eyes were wide open, and their faces were green. Seeing so many official-level Undyings lined up 10 million miles ahead, at this moment, even the 3 of them suspected that there was something wrong with their eyes, that they were hallucinating. It was too unreal. Even in their dreams, they didn't dare to imagine such a luxurious lineup. But now, it had become a reality. What was worse was that this group of people seemed to be enemies. Just a moment ago, he was still clamoring to bully them with numbers and crush them. As these thoughts flashed through their minds, Yu Linglong, Long Xiang, and Gong Jun could not wait to give themselves a few tight slaps. Unfortunately, it was too late for regrets. The other party's lineup had already been assembled. If nothing unexpected happened, what would happen next would be the miserable scene of 10 people bullying one person. Everyone, there's a misunderstanding here. Yes, don't be impulsive. Impulsiveness is the devil. Actually, we're here to visit. Since you don't welcome us, we'll just leave. Swallowing their saliva, the 3 officials from the Alliance fleet spat out those words and turned to leave. They were obviously trying to leave this terrifying space before the battle started. Hong Long. At the same time, the vanguard fleet behind the 3 of them, as well as the entire huge joint fleet 40 million miles behind them, instantly resonated with a deafening roar as if they had agreed upon it. All the battleships turned on their kinetic energy cabins at this moment, and they didn't even need to turn around. All the battleships kept their original direction and retreated madly. The vanguard fleet led by Elephant Fox Ferret, Dragon Mountain Tang, and Gong Huaji was not a big deal, but they were still more than 40 million miles away from the enormous light screen through which they came. It was impossible for them to escape in a short time. However, Yu Linglong, Long Xiang, Gong Jun, and the entire Alliance fleet behind them were different. The 3 of them were all official-level Undyings, and they could reach the rear in an instant. Once they rushed into the black hole, the chances of them successfully escaping would skyrocket. Secondly, there was the coalition fleet in the rear. The entire coalition fleet was only 5 million kilometers away from the black hole. If they were to perform a space jump, many warships would probably be able to rush into the black hole in the chaos. Seeing this, the 3-clawed flood dragon rolled his eyes. The 3 official-level Undyings who were retreating had really disappointed him. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, he had turned into a coward? He didn't even dare to say a single harsh word. He directly wanted to lead the entire Alliance fleet back into the black hole that they had come from. Go. If they really managed to escape, wouldn't that be too shameful? This was a rare opportunity for him to show his face, and he couldn't screw it up. However, even if he and the 30 officials around him were to attack at the same time, even though they were able to stop the vanguard and even the entire Alliance fleet close to the black hole, these 3 officials were all level 5 and level 6. There were too many of them. They wanted to escape. If they were really allowed to enter the black hole, they would immediately use teleportation as soon as they charged in. Perhaps only the violent ape would be able to chase after them one by one. This was definitely not the result the three-clawed flood dragon wanted. After going through so much trouble, he still had to alarm the big boss. This was too much of a failure. Thinking of this, his face suddenly showed an angry expression. He turned his head and yelled at the void behind him again. "Niu Wang, if you don't make a move, I will mess up this battle. It doesn't matter if you lose my face, but close it. I'll make a fool of myself." The so-called bull or great king was naturally referring to Green Bull. Now, in the forbidden land of Phoenix blood, other than Yi Xian, he was the second Undying's emperor. The title of Two Great Kings was well deserved. In fact, this was in line with Green Bull's personality. It was simply a stroke of genius. Yi Xian didn't interfere with this and left it to Green Bull. Green Bull was the one who gave the three-clawed flood dragon battle orders and reminded him of some matters. Therefore, at this moment, the three-clawed flood dragon's first thought was Green Bull. It was impossible for him to ask Yi Xian for help. "You want to leave as soon as you arrive? What do you think my forbidden land of Phoenix blood is?" Just as the three-clawed flood dragon finished speaking, in the end of the void far behind, in a certain planet, a shocking moo suddenly rang out, followed by the extremely arrogant voice of the green ox, which was almost disdainful. This guy wasn't much better than the three-clawed flood dragon. Not only did he call himself a king, but he also said that the forbidden land of Phoenix blood was his. This was simply shameless. In order to show off, he didn't even care about his reputation. Chapter 4285. When the three-clawed flood dragon turned its head again and called out like before, Yuling Long, Long Xiao, and Gong Jun, who were running away, realized that something was wrong. Their hearts skipped a beat, and the three of them had an extremely bad premonition. Especially when they heard the three-clawed flood dragon call out the name Bull Air King, their expressions changed almost instantly. To be called a king by an official level Undying, even if it was only the second king, what else could it be other than an emperor level Undying? Just as this thought surfaced in his mind, the mooing of the green ox came from the distant void behind them, accompanied by an incomparably majestic and powerful aura. In an instant, the three of them, including the entire group that was charging towards the black hole in front of them, were stopped. This alliance fleet had all locked onto them. With the space sealed, even an official level Undying felt like they were in a swamp. Their movements became extremely slow, and teleportation was out of the question. They completely lost the ability to use it again. The next moment, Yuling Long, Long Xiao, and Gong Jun, who had stopped in the space, took in a deep breath. When they subconsciously turned their heads to look, they exclaimed, "Emperor level Undying? That's impossible. Damn it, we've mistakenly entered a dangerous place. Emperor level? How can there be an Emperor level Undying here? What should we do?" With the space sealed, this is definitely the power of an Emperor level Undying. We're done for. Moo. Yuling Long and the others had just finished exclaiming when the mooing sound of a cow resounded once more from the distant end of the void behind them. Under the flash of a dark light, an enormous green cow that was 300,000 meters in size was charging over from afar, and its body was suffused with a powerful aura. Its aura made the space pale in comparison. At this instant, everything in the heavens and the earth seemed to have become a contrast, and only this enormous azure ox drew the converging gazes of countless people. Emperor level. In the core flagship fortress of the Vanguard fleet, the elephant fox Mink's eyes were in a daze. He murmured with endless envy. He felt that although this green bull was an emperor level Undying, it was the same as the three-clawed flood dragon. In other words, this emperor level green bull was just an official level Undying not long ago. But now, the breakthrough of a minor level had caused his level to instantly change. The difference between being conferred the title of Marquis and King was like the abyss of the heavens. There was an invisible chasm that spanned across, and there might not be one in 100 that could smoothly advance. This green bull was too lucky. Thinking of this, the elephant fox ferret suddenly thought of the heavenly river starmaster, Yi Xian, and couldn't help but faintly sigh. Sigh, how good would it be if that big shot also entered this unknown starry sky? With his heaven-defying luck, he represented the great fortune of the current world. In this world, he would have soared to the sky. What a pity that he stayed on Sky River Planet and never came. In the end, the elephantine ferret sighed again, feeling a little dispirited. I am the Bull Demon King, so my temper is definitely not very good. I'll give you 3 breaths of time. Either submit or die. In the blink of an eye, The Azure Bull had already arrived 500 kilometers ahead, and it stood in the sky before the 30-plus marquises while looking down upon everything. The supreme might it emitted caused Yu Linglong, Long Xing, and Gong Jun to be dazed, and their expressions had completely dimmed down. The three names of Bull Demon King had indeed frightened Yu Linglong and the other two. This name was very evil. Just by hearing it, one could tell that it was not to be trifled with. If they tried to struggle in vain, they might be trampled to death. Behind them, the group of officials had strange expressions. They all turned to look at each other. This was the first time they heard the name Bull Demon King. Obviously, the Green Bull had just given it to himself. Although it was just a name and not a big deal, but this name was clearly incompatible with his personality. The three-clawed flood dragon was the most depressed. He could see that this old bull was probably waiting for him to ask for help. Due to the order of Bao Yuan, he could not take the initiative to jump out, but in fact, this old guy was just like him. He also wanted to show off a little. After all, he had just been crowned king, so it was inevitable that he would be a little excited. However, he was very lucky. It took him a lot of effort to draw a lot and stand out among the 18 officials. This old guy was too shameless. He just waited for him to ask for help and then rushed out at the first moment. The most important thing was that as soon as he appeared, he stole all the limelight. He even called himself Bull Demon King. How disgusting. You still have 1 breath of time. 2 breaths of time passed in a flash. Just as the three-clawed flood dragon was feeling depressed, the green bull in front of him roared again. Outsiders, my temper is not very good. When I get angry, even I am afraid of myself. Think carefully. Moo. The last moo caused Yu Linglong, Long Xiang, and Gong Jun to tremble in fear. The countless experts in the Alliance fleet were also trembling. This was a real king. His demonic nature was too strong, and his ferocity was monstrous. When he got angry, even they were afraid of him. They knew that he was an incomparably cruel tyrant. Living under such a person was simply like living with a tiger. They would not have a good day. However, the situation was so urgent. If they did not lower their heads, they would immediately die. This was simply King Dog. Were they destined to be so miserable? Bull 2. Just as everyone was trembling in fear, a violent roar came from the end of the void in front of them. Its power was astonishing, and it was even stronger than this tyrant who called himself Bull Demon King. Sigh. The green bull subconsciously replied, then jumped up and roared, Who is it? Who the F***ck is calling this King Bull 2? How can there be such a big shot? He had just finished speaking halfway when he turned around and saw the figure that was walking over. The green bull's entire body trembled, and he immediately recalled his true identity as if he had returned to his senses. In the next instant, the ruthless aura that surged out from his body was like a spring breeze that transformed into rain, and it silently vanished without a trace. With a swing of his tail, he eagerly charged towards the starry sky ferocious ape that was striding over from behind him. That bouncing gait and the swinging tail behind him. No matter how one looked at it, it gave others the feeling of being happy and fawning. This scene stunned Yu Linglong and the other two, as well as the experts of the current era in the entire joint fleet. What happened to the Bull Demon King? What happened to the tyrant? Why did he become so obedient in the blink of an eye? After being stunned for a few seconds, the faces of Yu Linglong and the others darkened, and they completely understood. As they turned to look at each other, low murmurs sounded out from their mouths. Bull 2? No wonder the three-clawed flood dragon called him King 2 earlier. After all this fuss, it turns out that he was just pretending. Chapter 4286. Welcome to the forbidden land of Phoenix Blood, everyone. Striding forward, Yi Xian soon arrived in front of the three-clawed serpent dragon and the rest of the conferred marquises. He stood still but did not make a move, a smile on his face, and even his tone was immeasurably gentle. It was completely different from the temperament of a cosmic berserk ape. Judging from your warships, you must have come from the 3 main planes of the cosmos, right? A group of such foreign guests had already arrived before. Speaking of which, it's fate. To think that you and I would meet despite being so far apart from each other, this is fate. At those words, the three-clawed serpent dragon and the rest of the captive council's upper echelons immediately had weird expressions, exchanging glances and muttering to themselves. Fate my ass. Even if there was fate, it was the fate of being captured. Of course, those were just casual mutterings. When they thought about the benefits they had now, it would be worth it even if they were enslaved, let alone captured. Still, the scene before them clearly did not match this big boss's style. He must be up to something else. At that thought, the three-clawed serpent dragon and the others looked at Yu Linglong, Long Xing, and Gong Jun in the void before them with a hint of sympathy in their eyes. In truth, those three fellows were currently in a daze. The cosmic berserk ape before them was clearly the true master of the forbidden land of Phoenix blood. That much could be seen from the fact that the second great king who had just called himself the Bull Demon King was now standing behind it submissively, its tail wagging as if trying to curry favor. One could tell a thing or two just by swinging its tail around. Its cultivation ability also proved that point. It was actually a second-tier emperor. While it was still an early-tier emperor, it was at least a lot stronger than the second great king who had just entered that tier. Still, this cosmic berserk ape's temperament was very cultured, which was not at all like the other species. Still, that was normal since it was now a king and would have higher aspirations. How could it still be like an ordinary cosmic berserk ape? Move. Roar like thunder? No wonder the three-clawed serpent dragon and the others were doing so well here, running into a feral king ruled by benevolence. Thinking like this, Yu Linglong, Long Yang, and Gong Jun secretly heaved a sigh of relief, and their hearts that had been in their throats for a long time instantly fell by half. Even the three-clawed flood dragon and the others could make a name for themselves here. They were in the middle stage of the Marquis realm and were close to the late stage of the Marquis realm. Naturally, there would be no problem. Senior, you're too polite. We are indeed from the three main starry skies. Among all the races in the world, the human race is the most powerful. We are from the two main camps of the human race and the Myriad Net Federation, which has almost unified the three main planes. If you have the chance, Senior can go to the third universe of the three great planes. The two great human camps would welcome you with open arms. There are also kings and even emperors in the two great camps. When the time comes, they can interact with Senior and verify each other's DAS. It must be something to be happy about. Relieved, Yu Linglong and the others immediately cupped their hands at Yi Xian and exchanged a few polite pleasantries. They even subtly revealed their backgrounds and the strength of the camps behind them. Finally, Yu Linglong from the Myriad Net Federation smiled and nodded, saying to Yi Xian, "However, we still have important matters to attend to, so we can't stay here and disturb you. Senior, please go back. We will enter the black hole and begin our return journey." Senior, I wonder if you can ask the Great Ox, second great king, to remove the restriction on this void? That was what the three of them were thinking. Although the starry sky violent ape in front of him looked harmless, it was still a titled emperor after all. Beside it was the green cow, who did not seem very safe and reliable, and was also a titled emperor. These were two emperors, and no matter how polite they were, it was like walking on thin ice. What they wanted the most now was to leave immediately. I originally wanted to have a good chat with all of you, but since I have important matters to attend to, I naturally can't ask you to stay. Everyone, take care. Second Great King, remove the seal. As he spoke, Yi Xian had already turned his head to look at the green ox. As he spoke, the green ox was dumbfounded, while Yu Linglong and the other two in the air were overjoyed. Originally, they were still a little apprehensive, but now they had completely fallen. They were going down. At the same time, Yi Xian's gaze swept across the space in the distance, and he was stunned. He immediately exclaimed, "Eh? Why? Is there one less life star over there?" Getting. Hearing him mention the life star that had just been blasted into pieces, Yu Linglong, Long Xiang, and Gong Jun paled. Their hearts sank to the bottom of their stomachs. As a second-order emperor, how could he not know what had just happened? Seeing his polite appearance, they thought he was a cultured space-raging ape. Who would have thought that they would meet a smiling tiger after such a long time? Thinking of this, the three of them, who had just relaxed, immediately raised their hearts to their throats. After looking at each other for a while, Long Yang carefully probed and said apologetically, "Senior, that life star. Hee, I'm really sorry, the warship misfired just now and accidentally blew it away. Don't be angry, we were in the wrong first, but the mistake has been made, we can compensate." Misfired? Millions of warships misfired together? Yi Xian nodded. His face was still calm, and he didn't show any signs of getting angry on the spot. He even shook his head and sighed. "Looks like the quality of your battleship is worrying. It's just a life star, so what if it's gone? But this is a public resource after all, belonging to a forbidden area. It's public property, so I can't be too generous. How about this? There's no need to compensate. Besides, life stars are priceless. If you really want to compensate, you won't be able to afford it. If that's the case, why don't you leave the entire fleet behind and let them join my captive army temporarily? In the future, you can fight with me in the void space and take over 1,000 life stars with interest, so we can call it even. Everyone, what do you think? What do you think? Pang pang. Just as Yi Xian finished speaking, the expressions of Yu Linglong and the other two abruptly changed. They were so shocked that they almost fell to the ground on the spot. So, he had to take over 1,000 life stars with interest before he could call it even? Damn. This man was too black-hearted. He was even more shameless than the heavenly river planet Star-Lord, Yi Xian. To extort him to such an extent, even the most notorious pirate gang in the 3 main planes of the universe was far inferior to him. Didn't he just destroy a life star? He actually wanted to leave the entire fleet of more than 30 million people behind, including the 3 Undyings, in the captive army. This was clearly the rhythm of forcing women into prostitution and selling themselves as slaves. Captive army? Chapter 4287. When Yi Xian changed the topic, Green Ox, 3-clawed flood dragon, and the others had already guessed what he was going to say next. Their faces were all filled with sympathy as they looked at Yu Linglong and the other two. In the next moment, both sides exchanged glances. The 3-clawed flood dragon and the other marquee elders from the captive council were first stunned. Then their faces were quickly filled with awkwardness. This time they were really exposed. The captive army had ruined everything. It looked like they couldn't pretend today. Senior, this matter. Is there no room for discussion? After a short silence, Yu Linglong, Long Ao, and Gong Jun exchanged glances. The former spoke again and carefully said, although the stars are priceless, they are already destroyed. We can try our best to compensate, and we will definitely satisfy Senior. Moo. Boss, these 3 old fellows don't seem to understand the situation. How can we have so much time to talk nonsense with them? Without waiting for Yi Xian to express his opinion, Green Ox behind him had already raised his head and mooed angrily. His eyes flashed with excitement as he said patiently, in Old Ox's opinion, why don't we just give them some flesh medicine and push their strength to the peak of Marquee level 9 first? Fill it up, then give each of them a treasure pill to help them break through to the Emperor level. Before he finished speaking, the void had already fallen into dead silence again. Other than Yi Xian, who understood Green Ox's meaning and shook his head with a bitter smile, everyone else was dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with shock. Especially Yu Linglong, Long Ao, and Gong Jun. At this moment, their minds were completely blank, and their heads were buzzing. Weren't they talking about compensation? How did the situation change so drastically in the blink of an eye? Compensation became giving benefits. And these benefits sounded so shocking. What kind of flesh medicine could they use to push their strength to the Emperor level? Marquee level 9 perfection? This wasn't the main point. What was more shocking was that from the green cow's words, this space berserk ape seemed to have some sort of treasure pill that could allow a level 9 official level Undying to break through to Emperor level. Yu Linglong, Long Xiao, and Gong Jun all came from the 3 main space planes, so they naturally knew about the gene cultivation fluid. In terms of effect, the treasure pill mentioned by the Green Ox was obviously the same as the gene cultivation fluid of the human race. However, a gene cultivation fluid that could allow an Marquee immortal to directly break through to the Emperor-conferred realm was a level 22 gene cultivation fluid. Even the Heavenly River Star Master, Yi Xian, who was known as the master of both medicine and tools, would be scared just by hearing about it. Not to mention concocting it. If this space berserk ape in front of them really had such a treasure pill, it wouldn't be a big deal even if it became his slave, let alone being controlled by him. Thinking of this, Yu Linglong and the other two exchanged a look again, and a flash of inspiration flashed through their minds. They subconsciously turned their heads together and looked at the 3-clawed flood dragon and the other dozen or so elders who were also from the 3 great starry sky main planes like them. They all looked over. They gasped and exclaimed softly, 3-clawed dragon, your cultivation. Could it be that all of you swallowed this treasure pill and successfully broke through to Marquee level? How is this possible? How can there be such a treasure pill in this world? It's unbelievable. In less than 3 years it would be fine if only 1 or 2 guys broke through to Marquee level, but these guys all broke through. This was definitely not normal. They already had doubts in their hearts, and now they heard about the treasure pill from the green ox. As for the matter of the pills, he naturally came to a realization and made such a guess. Moo. It's not just them. Even I have just broken through to the regal emperor realm not long ago. It's all because I swallowed a regal emperor pill. The green ox looked up again, his eyes gleaming as he glanced at Yu Linglong and the other two. The three of you are already level 5 or 6, Marquis level 5 or 6, with only 3 or 4 more small breakthroughs to reach level 9 perfection. At that time, I'll give each of you an Emperor treasure pill to help you break through to Emperor level. And then I'll take your blood and essence to make Emperor blood essence. This way, you'll have 7 Emperor blood essences in your hands. Just 3 more and you'll be able to make the Emperor blood essence. Emperor treasure pill. What he meant was that he was going to use Yu Linglong and the other two as raw materials for the Emperor blood essence, and when they broke through to Emperor level, he would harvest the blood essence. Yi Xian had already guessed this, but the 3-clawed flood dragon and the others weren't. At this moment, they were all shocked and turned their heads to look at Yi Xian. It was obvious that fear arose in their hearts, afraid that Yi Xian had the same intentions towards them. After all, from a certain point of view, compared to Yu Linglong, Long Xing, and Gong Jun, the 3-clawed flood dragon and the others weren't that close to Yi Xian. They were also captives not long ago. As for Yu Linglong and the other two, they sucked in a breath of cold air once again. At the same time, a chill ran down their backs, and the shock on their faces became even more intense. At this moment, they were both shocked and happy. Shocked that the other party was planning to use them as raw materials, and harvest them after they were fattened up. He was happy that the violent star ape in front of him had such a shocking ability. It could even refine a treasure pellet that could help a peak 9th Order king break through to the Emperor realm. Moreover, from the meaning of the green ox's words, it seemed that refining this kind of Emperor bestowment pill required 10 pieces of king blood essence, and the other party actually had 4 pieces in his hands. In other words, excluding the green ox that had just broken through to the Emperor bestowment realm not long ago, this Emperor level 2 space berserk ape had already killed 4 emperors of the same level before. Hence, its true battle power was probably far from what a second-level emperor could compare to. It was at least a mid-level emperor-level battle power. With the cultivation strength of the 3 of them, even if they were to face the green cow who was only at the first level of the titled king, they would not have the slightest chance of winning, let alone a titled king violent ape with a mid-stage battle strength. Thinking of this, Yu Linglong and the other two looked at each other again, and their faces were ashen as they fell into endless despair. You only have 1 year. After 1 year, the old ox and I will leave the forbidden land of Phoenix Blood to do something, and we may not return in a short period of time. Yi Xian speechlessly glared at the green ox before continuing. Within a year, no matter who it is, as long as they can push their cultivation to the peak of the 9th stage of the conferred marquis, this king will bestow a conferred king treasure pill to help you break through to the conferred king realm. Emperor level. But the goal isn't to harvest flesh and blood, but to guard the forbidden land of Phoenix Blood while I'm away, protecting this star field. After he finished, Yu Linglong, Long Jiang, and Gong Jun's eyes lit up, and they subconsciously turned to look at the group of undyings behind Yi Xian and the green ox. Their eyes were filled with excitement, and they couldn't hide it at all. Chapter 4288. I do need the blood essence to concoct the Emperor treasure pill. Seeing that Yu Linglong, Long Xing, and Gong Jun were moved, Yi Xian's expression remained indifferent as he continued. A cauldron of Emperor's treasure pills requires at least 10 king blood essences to refine. The Emperor's treasure pills that come out of the cauldron are from 2 to 3. Right now, although I only have 4 regal elixirs, I am still a distance away from reaching the peak of the rank 9 regal realm. In this boundless space, there are countless mid-level forbidden areas. There are plenty of opportunities to kill regal elixirs. As long as you are sincere in surrendering, I won't harm my own subordinates for a few drops of blood essence. However, if you are two-faced, then it's a different story. According to the rules of my army, you have just joined the captive army and have not done anything yet. You do not have the right to get the Emperor treasure pill. However, this is a special situation. 1 year later, this king and old bull have to travel far away and go to other middle-level starry sky forbidden lands to hunt down king-ranked existences. As the rear base camp, the forbidden land of Phoenix Blood cannot be without a king-ranked existence. Even if 1 or 2 just enter the Emperor treasure pill, it is far from enough. So as long as you can break through to the 9th level of the conferred marquis realm within a year, this king can make the decision to reward you with an imperial bestowment pill to help you break through to the conferred marquis realm. In the future, when you make contributions to the conferred marquis realm, This king can deduct it from your battle achievements. Yes. As he said this, Yi Xian turned to look at the 30 over marquises behind him. Among you, there are 3 6th level marquises, 1 5th level marquis and 1 4th level marquis. All of you have a chance to reach the peak of the 9th level within a year. Now, go into closed-door cultivation. 1 year later, we will all come out together. Xiao. Xiao. In the end, Yi Xian waved his hand and took out half of the purple gold top-grade flesh and blood medicine that he kept in his undying world. He split it into 34 portions and shot them towards the 34 seals that included Yu Linglong, Long Xing, and Gong Jun Marquis Immortal. This aura. SSS. What a strong energy aura. Could this be the flesh medicine that Niu Erwang was talking about? No wonder the 3-clawed flood dragon and the others could all break through to the Marquis realm in less than 3 years. Apart from the help of the Marquis realm pellet, the effect of this top-grade flesh medicine is equally shocking. Thank you, my lord, for your reward. Facing the purple gold top-grade flesh medicine, Yu Linglong, Long Xiang, and Gong Jun's expressions changed drastically. They all sucked in cold breaths. At the same time, their eyes flickered, and their hearts palpitated. They were all Marquis, and at the middle or peak of this realm. Naturally, they could see the value of the flesh medicine. With such a huge amount, it was indeed possible for them to break through to peak level 9 undying within a year. In that case, there was no doubt that he would become a conferred king in a year's time. In the face of such temptation, Yu Linglong and the other 2 finally accepted their fate. After receiving the flesh medicine that was shot at them, they cupped their fists and bowed to Yi Xian, greeting him as their master. Go, there's only 1 year left. It'll depend on your luck. Yi Xian waved his hand and turned around to walk towards the huge star he came from. As for the 30 million battleships behind, the 3-clawed flood dragon will be in charge of receiving them. They'll be assigned to the captive army. First, we'll distribute some flesh to the army. The great medicine will be deducted from your battle merits in the future. My lord, this old Martin has something to say. As soon as Yi Xian finished speaking, a figure rushed out from the vanguard fleet behind Yu Linglong, Long Xiang and Gong Jun. It was the elephant fox Martin. The old fellow's eyes flickered. He was only an ordinary undying level warrior, so he didn't have the right to speak in this situation. However, he unexpectedly rushed out of the vanguard fleet's flagship fortress and appeared in the void space, staring at Yi Xian. His back was getting further and further away. What's the matter? The space berserk ape paused and turned around. Its eyes flashed, but its face was expressionless. Its tone was very calm, and there was even a tinge of displeasure. Yu Linglong, Long Xiang, and Gong Jun immediately became nervous, especially Yu Linglong, who was also from the Wan Luo Federation but was an undying level marquis. Her face was covered with frost. Although the elephant fox Martin was an undying level undying, facing this king-rank space berserk ape, even a mid-level marquis like them could only hold their breath. Yet, he rushed out and shouted. This was definitely an offensive action. This old Martin has some suggestions to report. However, this matter is confidential. Why don't we discuss it in private, my lord? The elephant fox Martin obviously felt the displeasure in Yi Xian's words. His heart trembled, and his body trembled. However, in the end, he chose to believe in his own judgment and guess. He gritted his teeth and said, "It's best to bring the 3-clawed flood dragon with us. Flood dragon. He and I will report to the master together." Yi Xian's eyes gleamed once more as he sighed inwardly. This fellow was indeed worthy of being a mutant with the bloodline of the treasure-seeking Martin. The truth that even an emperor-level undying couldn't see through was actually seen through by him. Thinking of this, Yi Xian suddenly had an idea. He nodded subconsciously. If that's the case, then the 2 of you, come at me. As soon as he finished speaking, he didn't stay here any longer. His figure vanished with a flash, and he entered the enormous star that belonged solely to Yi Xian, a star that even the Azurox didn't dare to enter. The space fell into a deathly silence once more. The only difference was that this time, all the gazes converged onto the elephantine mink, and after a short pause, they simultaneously moved onto the 3-clawed flood dragon. The elephantine's eyes lit up. Yi Xian's reaction confirmed his guess. He grinned and turned to look at the 3-clawed flood dragon. "Brother, let's go. Don't keep the master waiting." The latter was confused and at a loss. He subconsciously asked, "Old fellow, what are you up to?" Hee. Isn't the master going out to hunt in a year's time? Naturally, he'll be looking for treasures at the same time. Don't forget, I have 1/3 of the blood of the treasure-seeking Marten in me. Licking the corner of his mouth, the elephantine mink's figure flashed, and he shot toward the enormous star that Xianxia was guarding. I intend to recommend myself, but to convince the master, I'll need an acquaintance to speak for me. The two of us have an acquaintance. We've met a few times before, so of course it's you. These words were naturally said for the others to hear, so as to avoid arousing suspicion. However, the three-clawed flood dragon clearly believed it. It curled its lips upon hearing this, and its face was filled with disdain and disapproval. However, it did not delay for too long. That big boss had already said that it could go with the elephant fox ferret. Even if it was unwilling, even if he didn't want to, he had to make a trip. Thinking of this, the three-clawed flood dragon no longer hesitated. His figure flashed, and he immediately followed the elephantine mink, not daring to delay at all. Whoosh! Whoosh! Chapter 4289. Inside the star, on the tallest mountain peak, the space-violent ape sat cross-legged on the peak with its eyes closed. Its aura was restrained, but there was an invisible majestic aura that could not be offended that spread out, making people not dare to look at it. Xiao! Xiao! Two weak sounds of breaking through the air rang out. The elephant fox ferret and the three-clawed dragon, one after the other, passed through the atmosphere of the star and entered the star. They turned their heads and took a few glances, then shot straight towards the towering mountain peak where Xianxia was. Congratulations, boss. You're really mysterious. I didn't expect to see you here, and you've even entered the titled Emperor realm. As his figure landed on the peak, the elephantine immediately walked forward with a face full of smiles. As he spoke, he repeatedly cupped his hands towards Xianxia. He didn't look like he needed an acquaintance to help him speak. He was clearly sitting cross-legged in front of him. The rhythm of the space-violent ape was extremely familiar. In addition to the meaning of his words, the three-clawed dragon was instantly stunned. Hiss! Taking in a cold breath, the three-clawed dragon's mind flashed with a light. He immediately understood and exclaimed in shock, "Old ferret, you mean he?" The bloodline of the treasure-seeking ferret is indeed worthy of its reputation. Even the emperors couldn't see through it. I didn't expect you to be able to smell it. Your nose is comparable to a dog's. Without waiting for the elephant fox ferret to explain, Xianxia had already opened his eyes. The words from his mouth undoubtedly confirmed the former's guess. It made his heart relax, and the smile on his face became even wider. He cupped his hands again and smiled. "Leader, you flatter me. If you really want to talk about it, the dog's nose is not as good as mine." With this conversation, no matter how slow the three-clawed dragon was, he understood what had happened. His face immediately revealed a look of ecstasy. He rushed to the front of the elephant fox ferret and sized up Xianxia from head to toe. He was extremely happy. "Leader? You are the leader? Heavens, this joke is really too big. The conferred king violent ape that has followed me for so long is actually this flood dragon's leader?" Before he could finish speaking, Xianxia had already deactivated the 9 devil ape transformation's bloodline ability and restored his original appearance. At this point, everything was beyond question. No matter if it was the three-clawed flood dragon or the elephant fox mink, all of them were extremely delighted, and they simply danced with joy. Although they were all immortal realm-old monsters, and even the three-clawed flood dragon had just broken through to the Marquis realm, in this vast and boundless fragment of the world, their cultivation was not enough, even for the three-clawed flood dragon. Because they belonged to the kind of people who could only tuck their tails between their legs. As for the weaker normal undying elephant fox ferret, there was no need to even mention him. For example, in that situation just now, he didn't even have the right to speak. It could be said that when they were here, they were all extremely cautious, as if they were treading on thin ice. But now it was completely different. With Xianxia as her backing, what was there to be afraid of? Not only would he not have to worry about his own safety, but his cultivation would also continue to soar as long as he reached the great circle of the 9th step. Once they reached the 9th level of the 9th level, they would immediately be able to apply for a corresponding treasure pill from the leader. Everyone was on the same side, so this was definitely not a problem. This Star Master's identity is not to be leaked out for the time being. With a faint smile, Xianxia turned to look at the three-clawed flood dragon and continued, "You have just broken through to the Marquis realm, so you don't need the conferred king treasure pill. However, this Star Master will be going on a long journey in a year, and I'm afraid I won't be back in a short period of time. Keep this conferred King Treasure Pill first. Don't spread the news. Xiao. Xiao. With that, 2 treasure pills were shot out by him. One conferred King Treasure Pill flew towards the 3-clawed Flood Dragon, while the other was Marquis Treasure Pill, but it flew towards the Elephant Fox Ferret. As the 2 treasure pills were sent out, Xian turned to look at the Elephant Fox Ferret. A year later, you will go on an expedition with this Star Master. However, looking at your current cultivation and strength, it is indeed a bit too weak. Within this year, you must break through to the Marquis Realm. Marquis Realm? Boss, are you really going to search for treasures? After receiving the conferred King Treasure Pill and carefully keeping it, the Elephant Fox Ferret's eyes shone brightly as it looked at Xian. It raised its hand and patted its chest loudly. Boss, don't worry. This old ferret doesn't dare to boast about other things, but I'm looking for treasures. When it comes to treasures, if this old ferret claims to be number 2, no one would dare to boast that they are number 1. Huh. I wonder what kind of place the boss is going to search for? I don't have a definite destination. I'm just exploring along the way. Right now, what this Star Master needs the most is cultivation resources that can allow the 4 great battle clans to evolve quickly. With that, Xian waved his hand again. Following that, the 4 great battle clans appeared from within his undying world. In an instant, densely packed low buzzing sounds could be heard from all around the star. Previously, Xian had spread the wind within the star, scattering in all directions. After sensing the aura of the battle clans, the 4 great battle clans all flew over. Void Soldier Ladle, Blood Mosquito Beast, Slime, Weeping Soul Ape. Any one of the 4 great kinetic races had a population of tens of millions, and their cultivations weren't weak. Although it was meaningless compared to the current Xian, if they were placed in the 3 main planes of the Starry Sky Realm, they wouldn't be able to do anything. That was definitely not the case. Gulp, gulp. At the side, the 3-clawed Flood Dragon and the Elephant Fox Ferret were already dumbfounded as they subconsciously swallowed their saliva. After a while, Xian put away the 4 great battle clans and waved his hand to disperse all the battle clans. After each of them went into seclusion within the star to break through, the 2 of them finally regained their senses. Boss, this old ferret has already memorized the aura and characteristics of these 4 great battle clans. Turning to look at Xian, the Elephant Fox Ferret nodded mechanically. To be honest, cultivation resources suitable for these 4 bloodlines to break through quickly are really not common. However, as long as it does exist in this void, it will definitely not escape this old ferret's nose. Zai sensing, once we get close to a certain range, we will definitely be able to detect it immediately. Apart from the cultivation resources of the 4 great battle clans to improve their cultivation and evolve their bloodlines, the various minerals used to transform and upgrade the 4 great battle clans are also within the target of this exploration. Nodding, Xian waved his hand and shot out a ray of light. In the blink of an eye, it entered the space between the Elephant Fox Ferret's eyebrows and disappeared. These are the required minerals that this Star Lord has deduced. Apart from them, the characteristics of the structure of the 4 great battle clans and the power of the field. The general profoundness of the battle clans is also included. When the time comes, if you encounter any suitable minerals along the way, just remember to pay more attention. After saying that, Xian's figure flashed and disappeared from the peak of the towering mountain. However, his voice still lingered in the air. Go into seclusion immediately. There's still a year's time. Try your best to raise your cultivation and strength as much as you can in this 1 year. If there is nothing important, don't disturb me again. This Star Lord's cultivation also needs to improve. Chapter 4290. After the 3-clawed Flood Dragon and the Elephant Fox Ferret left, Xian appeared in the depths of a giant canyon within the star. He was still in his human form, sitting cross-legged in the central region of the canyon. Xiao. Xiao xiao xiao. With a wave of his hand, there was a faint sound of air breaking. A large amount of training resources were taken out from the undying world in his body. They were all top-grade items, and any one of them would cause a huge commotion in the outside world. Even emperors would be envious of them. Purple gold top-grade flesh medicine. Olival origin liquid. And all sorts of rare top-grade precious materials and medicines. There was even a large piece of quasi-primordial life-forms precious blood and precious flesh. It was roasted into a golden color by the Shenong 7-colored flame. It was so ripe that oil oozed out, and its aroma filled the air. All of these were training resources that Yi Xian had prepared for this breakthrough. With a thought, the power of the Shengnong Cauldron's domain was activated by Yi Xian. He prepared all the cultivation resources in front of him, and under the suppression of the treasured cauldron's domain, it turned into a small bead. Yi Xian opened his mouth, and the small bead flew into his mouth with a whoosh. It turned into a warm current that flowed down his throat and into his stomach. Hua la la! Rumble! The next moment, Yi Xian's body seemed to be turned upside down. A shackle appeared out of nowhere, and from that moment on, the loud clanking sound of the shackle never stopped for a second. All sorts of top-grade training resources turned into a blazing energy river that surged and shook the shackle, bringing about a shockingly loud rumble. Time passed slowly amidst this earth-shattering rumble. Almost every second was filled with endless pain. In the end, he even became numb and forgot about the existence of time. After an unknown period of time, when his consciousness gradually returned, he discovered that the continuous rumbling in his body had actually disappeared. The incomparably blazing energy river had disappeared, and the shackles that had appeared before had also disappeared without a trace. A sense of clarity surged into Yi Xian's mind. He was overjoyed. The breakthrough was complete, and what followed next was the long-awaited system notification. Everything would come soon. Ding! Congratulations to host for achieving a breakthrough in the ancient Dongshu formula. Current realm. Level 2 Emperor Immortal. Ding! Congratulations to host. You have achieved a breakthrough in your physical body's qi and blood realm. Current realm. Level 2 Emperor Immortal. Before this, Yi Xian's original body had already reached the first rank of Immortal Emperor. Once he activated the three-headed, six-armed ancient demon ape bloodline, his strength would soar to the second rank of Immortal Emperor. If he used 9 transformation of demonic ape and reached the 6th transformation, he would instantly reach the 8th level of Emperor level. Just one more level and he would reach the peak of Emperor level 9. And this time, when his cultivation level broke through again, the moment Yi Xian activated the Devil Ape bloodline in his body and entered the 6th transformation of the 9 transformations of the Devil Ape, his peak battle strength would instantly reach the peak of the 9th level of the King Realm, and his battle strength would rise again. It's a pity that I've been breaking through too frequently recently, and my state of mind is a little unstable. Otherwise, if I broke through another small level and raised my cultivation level to the 3rd level of the King Realm in my normal state, then once I entered the 6th transformation of the Devil Ape, I would instantly have the strength of an Emperor level 1. Feeling the terrifying power within him, Yi Xian muttered softly. However, there's no need to rush. Emperor level 9 peak is already invincible within this region. As long as I don't meet an Emperor level Undying, I can do whatever I want. After adjusting his state of mind, Yi Xian checked the time. Although he wasn't in a hurry to break through this time, he was still moving slowly. However, it still only took around half a month. Originally, there was still 11.5 months left in the 1-year period. However, it wasn't a good time to continue his closed-door training. His state of mind had to be tempered through battles. All of this would have to wait until the year was up, and he would have to go on a long journey and go through a few bloody battles. And now, he could use the remaining time to study the 7th transformation of the Devil Ape, or the perfect recipe for the level 24 pill. Even though the 7th transformation is still important, as it allows me to easily raise my cultivation level by a small level when I use the 9 transformation of demonic ape bloodline ability, and my blood energy will increase by 10 times. All in all, my battle strength will increase greatly. However, compared to this body's breakthrough, the importance of the 7th transformation is still slightly inferior. What's more, the complete mysteries of the 7th transformation of the Devil Ape have been ordered to be deduced by the system after I fully deciphered the 6th transformation. Even without my powerful divine sense, it will be slightly slower if I fully unleash it. But ultimately, it won't take much time. After pondering for a while, Yi Xian quickly made a decision. Since that's the case, I'll use the remaining time to study the perfect recipe for the level 24 pill. The level 24 pill was known as the Emperor level treasure pill. It could allow an Emperor level 9 peak to smoothly break through to the Emperor level. Right now, Yi Xian was only at the 2nd level of the titled king. Even if he reached the pinnacle of the 9th level, all he needed was a level 23 pill that could help him break through to the 1st level of the titled emperor. He had already successfully deduced the perfect recipe for the level 23 pill, but because he had yet to gather 10 pieces of king blood essence, he had yet to refine it. It could be said that he didn't need the level 24 pill recipe at all. He still had enough time to ponder and deduce it. However, Yi Xian didn't dare to delay too much. While he had time, he wanted to think about this matter. As a result, it took him nearly 10 months to deduce the perfect pill formula for a mere level 23 pill. From this, it could be seen that the pill recipe for the level 24 pill that would be used to break through to the Immortal Emperor level was probably just to deduce this level. This would take at least a year or more. Moreover, during this period of over a year, he couldn't do anything. He had to concentrate all his attention, neither sleep nor rest, and carry out deductions without stopping for a moment. How could he possibly have such a long period of leisure at all times? Since he had time now, he naturally could deduce it bit by bit. Using the gene cultivation fluid to temper the body, tearing apart the shackles of the human body's potential, and promoting the evolution of life, although breaking through to the Great Realm was extremely fast, as long as the energy accumulation of 9 small levels in each Great Realm met the requirements, then he would be able to smoothly break through. However, not to mention anything else, just the amount of mental energy required to deduce the pill formula was a little outrageous. Even though Yi Xian had a huge amount of resources, in the end, every time he broke through to a Great Realm, he would have to pay an incomparably difficult price. Hard work. Chapter 4291. Over 300 days and nights passed in the blink of an eye. The last time, Yi Xian had used over 10 months to calculate the perfect recipe for the level 23 pill. This time, even though it was harder to calculate the perfect recipe for the level 24 pill, Yi Xian had already broken through to Emperor level. His divine sense was much more powerful than the last time. Therefore, he only used slightly more than 11 months to successfully deduce the perfect pill formula for the level 24 pill. When he opened his eyes, there were only 2 days left before the 1-year deadline. Luckily, I didn't disappoint you. The perfect recipe for the level 24 pill has finally been calculated. Yi Xian's eyes flashed as he subconsciously clenched his fists. A level 24 pill is able to allow an immortal old monster at the peak of the 9th stage of the Emperor realm to successfully break through to the Emperor realm. Which means, as long as I have enough materials, after making the level 24 pill, my strength will definitely break through to Emperor level in the future. It's a pity, not to mention the level 24 pill, I haven't even gathered enough materials for one batch of the level 23 pill to break through to Emperor level. As he spoke to hear, Yi Xian's expression darkened, but the light in his eyes became even more resolute. It seems that this long journey is a must. Other than hunting undying emperors, gathering enough emperor blood essence to refine a level 23 pill, and searching for the 4 great battles. Even the emperor immortals are within the hunting range. This was not completely impossible. Currently, Yi Xian's original body's cultivation had already broken through to the 2nd level of the King Realm. Once he activated the bloodline ability of the 9 transformations of the Devil Ape and used it to the 6th transformation, he would instantly possess the Great Circle of the 9th level of the King Realm, full of terrifying strength. If he had 2 or 3 more breakthroughs during this long journey, Yi Xian's pinnacle strength would break through to Emperor level 2 or 3. As such, if he were to encounter a 1st or 2nd order emperors, it would be a piece of cake to kill them. There are only 2 days left before the 1-year deadline, those fellows should be coming out soon. As he spoke, Yi Xian raised his head to look at the atmosphere above his head. Just as he was about to flash away with a shake of his shoulders, an earth-shattering rumble of thunder suddenly sounded out from the void outside the atmosphere. Rumble! Rumble! The rumbling of the thunder was not only sudden, but also shocking. The aura of the calamity loomed over, causing Yi Xian to tremble. He subconsciously turned around and muttered, "From the sound of it, it seems like there's more than one wave of calamity lightning. Could it be?" Before he finished speaking, his figure had already disappeared and arrived in the void of the universe outside the atmosphere. With a glance, there was a sudden surge of wind and clouds above 6 life stars in all directions. Almost at the same time, in the space outside these life stars, a large number of black calamity clouds surged over. There were so many of them that they covered the entire star. This scene was extremely mystical. It was as if a second layer of black atmosphere had covered the original atmosphere. It was dazzling, especially when all 6 stars were like this. For a moment, it gave people an extremely unreal feeling. Wan wan, wan wan, wan wan. If it was a dream, 5 waves of calamity, 1 wave of calamity. Yi Xian's divine sense swept across the black calamity clouds that shrouded these few stars. He instantly understood everything. His eyes flashed, and he immediately used his divine sense to send a message, which resounded throughout the vast and boundless Phoenix Bloodstar region. All those who are going through the calamity, leave this place. Go to the universe void at the edge of the forbidden area. Just go through the calamity with peace of mind. Everything will be decided by me. If there are no accidents, I will definitely take action. As soon as he finished speaking, from these 6 life stars, there were instantly figures that swept out at an extremely fast speed. They all rushed to the distant void around Phoenix Bloodstar region. The thick calamity clouds that originally shrouded these 6 life stars were like shadows. Then they locked onto these 6 figures and went far away in an instant. Although the 6 figures were fast, Xianxia still saw them clearly. The guy who was going through the calamity was the elephant fox Martin. In just a year, he had broken through to the peak of the 9th level of the immortal realm as he wished. Now, after swallowing a marquee treasure pill, the calamity clouds descended. As long as he could pass through it, he would become a marquee immortal. As for the other 5 figures, they were all going through the calamity of being a marquee immortal. Xianxia didn't have a lot of marquee immortal pills to break through to the marquee immortal realm. Last time, he made 14 marquee immortal. 1 year ago, he gave one to the 3-clawed flood dragon. Now, there were only 13 left. These 13 marquee immortal pills. Before Xianxia decided to go into seclusion to deduce the perfect formula of the level 24 pill, he gave them to the Green Bull for safekeeping temporarily. He also told the 34 Marquee Immortal Realm subordinates under him that if any of them broke through to the Marquee Immortal Realm within a year, he would immediately give one to anyone who broke through to the peak of the 9th level. Now it seemed that of the 13 Marquee Immortal Realm subordinates, only 8 were left. 5 of them were given to those who were going through the calamity of being a Marquee Immortal. Among these 5 lucky fellows, there were Yu Ling Long, Long Ao, and Gong Jun. As for the other 2 fellows, they were the Marquee Immortal Realm Ferocious Beast Commanders under the young man's command in the previous battle. They were originally at the 6th level of the Marquee Immortal Realm. Within a year, they had broken through 3 times consecutively and stepped into the peak of the 9th level of the Marquee Immortal Realm. A few days ago, they received an Marquee Immortal Realm pill from the Green Bull. Once these 5 people successfully passed the Calamity of Lightning, the Forbidden Land of Phoenix Blood would have 5 more Marquee Immortal Realm Undyings. Even if Xianxia and the Green Bull were to leave, with these 5 Marquee Immortal Realm Ferocious Beast Kings temporarily guarding the Forbidden Land of Phoenix Blood, they would be able to ensure the safety of this star field. Because the Calamity of Lightning was simply too big. Although the entire Phoenix Blood starfield was extremely vast, there were still countless figures rushing out of the atmosphere of their respective stars and arriving at the outer space of the universe. Their faces were filled with shock as they looked up. More and more people gathered. Except for those who were still in seclusion, those who could leave had all come to the outer space of the universe to watch this grand scene. That's right, this was indeed a rare grand scene. 6 waves of Calamity of Lightning were coming at the same time. 1 wave was the Marquee Immortal Realm Tribulation, and 5 waves were the Marquee Immortal Realm Tribulation. Even the Green Bull and Xianxia had never seen such a scene, let alone the other great beings in Phoenix Blood Starfield. Hong! Ka-cha! Ka-cha-cha! Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, an earth-shaking rumble resounded. It continued without end, and it was accompanied by the extremely clear sound of lightning striking down. Chapter 4292. Whether it was the Marquee Tribulation or the King Tribulation, there was only 1 wave of tribulation lightning. The only difference was the thickness and power of this 1 wave of tribulation lightning. The thunder tribulations in the Phoenix Bloodstar area were indeed rare. 5 kings and 1 marquis were going through the tribulations at the same time. Even in this vast and boundless fragment of the desolation ancient era, such a thing had not happened more than a few times. Although the power of the 6 waves of tribulation lightning was terrifying, after only 1 wave, the tribulation cloud had gradually dispersed amidst the earth-shattering rumbling of thunder. When the 6 waves of tribulation lightning struck down, Xianxia's heart had indeed risen to his throat. The 5 conferred kings and 1 conferred marquis were extremely important to him. They were indispensable subordinates, and no matter who died in the tribulation lightning, Xianxia wouldn't be happy. In fact, he would definitely be extremely depressed. Fortunately, these 6 fellows did not disappoint. Although they were struck half dead, they survived in the end. No one fell in the tribulation lightning. As for the injuries on their bodies, no matter how serious they were nothing to Xianxia. With a wave of his hand, 6 dark rays of light shot out from his hand and shot in 6 different directions around the Phoenix Bloodstar region, directly landing on the 6 fellows undergoing tribulation. After they caught it, they directly swallowed it. The 6 drops of all evil origin liquid could not only heal the serious injuries they suffered in the tribulation in an instant, but it could also strengthen their realm and completely stabilize their newly broken cultivation base. Screech! Roar! As a drop of all evil origin liquid fell into their stomachs, the 6 fellows' injuries were instantly healed. Their auras completely stabilized. Overjoyed, they roared wildly at the top of their heads, unable to suppress their excitement. They sensed everyone in the forbidden land of Phoenix blood. In the void outside the atmosphere of more than 800 life stars, countless experts who had been watching from afar quickly dispersed one after another. They were all stimulated and immediately turned to return to their respective planets and cave residences. They began to cultivate in seclusion. It could be said that the simultaneous tribulation of 6 marquises and kings was a great boost to the morale of the countless experts in the forbidden land of Phoenix blood. A fiery cultivation craze began on a grand scale. At this time, when the figures in the void outside the universe gradually decreased, the 6 guys who had just completed their tribulations shot forward and arrived in front of Xianxia. There was only one level 1 Marquis Lord, and that was the elephant fox mink. There were 5 emperors level 1, Yu Linglong, Long Xiang, Gong Jun, and 2 ferocious beasts, a black wind tiger and a howling moon mastiff. At this point, the peak combat strength of Xianxia's space nomadic army, which was the number of undyings, had reached 7. As for marquises, there were originally 34 of them, but after the elephantine ferret's breakthrough, there were now 35 of them. However, 5 of them had successfully broken through to the titled king realm, so the number of marquises had decreased to only 30. The normal undyings below the official level were still the same as before, a total of over 400. As for the normal forces, they were divided into 3 major armies. Ferocious Beast Army. A total of tens of millions. In the entire army, there were a total of 8 Marquis-level Ferocious Beast commanders and over 130 normal undyings beast leaders. Survivor Army. A total of tens of millions of survivors, over 1 million battleships, 6 Marquis-level undyings, and over 100 normal undyings. Captive Army. Countless strong warriors in space, close to 150 million battleships, 16 Marquis-level undyings, and over 160 normal undyings. And this was without including Flying Centipede, Silver G, Corpse Ancestor, and Drought Demon. If these hidden subordinates were included, the combat power of the entire Starry Sky nomadic army would be even more powerful. With such a formation, the combined strength of the entire space nomadic army, even without the super freak Xianxia, was almost on par with the forbidden land of Phoenix blood. However, what comforted Xianxia the most was that in just 1 year, 5 Marquis-level undyings had successfully broken through to Emperor level. This way, even if he and Green Bull were to leave the forbidden land of Phoenix blood immediately, they would be completely at ease. These 5 Emperor-level undyings were enough to ensure the safety of the forbidden land of Phoenix blood. Of course, the best plan was to imprint the second interstellar coordinate jump point in the forbidden land of Phoenix blood. This way, Xianxia could return at any time and arrive at his destination with just a thought. However, the moment this idea popped up, he immediately rejected it. With his current system title level, he could only imprint 2 interstellar coordinate jump points in the same universe dimension. Previously, he had already imprinted one in the Mulberry Tree starfield, so there was only 1 spot left. Although the Phoenix blood starfield was huge with over 800 life stars, to Xianxia, this was still only a temporary resting place. He shouldn't waste the last remaining coordinate jump point here. Greetings, my king. At this moment, Xianxia stood proudly in the void space. The 30-meter-tall violent ape emitted an invisible pressure. Behind him stood Green Bull, swinging his tail and snorting from time to time. 6 rays of light shot over from all directions of the Phoenix blood starfield and lined up in front of him. They clasped their hands and bowed respectfully. At this moment, regardless of whether it was Yu Linglong, Long Xing, Gong Jun, or the Black Wind Tiger and the Howling Moon Mastiff, the 2 forbidden beasts that had been taken into the ferocious beast army by the Green Ox, they were all sincerely convinced by Xianxia. They hadn't done anything, but they had obtained great opportunities. A year ago they were only Marquis-level undyings, but now in the blink of an eye, they had become Marquis-level undyings. All of this was like a dream, but it was also very real. It made them sigh with emotion, and they were naturally convinced. However, although they were convinced, the 5 emperors who had just become level undyings were still a little nervous, especially Yu Linglong and the other two. However, this had nothing to do with Yi Xian. It was the trouble that Green Bull had stirred up earlier. It was obvious that these 5 fellows were all worried that Yi Xian wouldn't immediately make a move. Just as the Green Ox had said earlier, he would harvest the fruits and kill them on the spot. He would take the blood and qi from their bodies and refine them into king blood essences. Alright, don't think about those useless things. If I really wanted to take action, you wouldn't even have the chance to get close to me. You would have turned into a cloud of blood mist in the distance. Speechless, Yi Xian rolled his eyes. He turned around and shot toward the depths of the universe in front of the forbidden land of Phoenix blood. I'll take Old Ox and Elephant Fox Ferret with me. I'll leave immediately. As for the forbidden land of Phoenix blood, I'll leave it to the 5 of you to guard. I hope that when this king returns, the 5 of you will still be here. Otherwise, if there is anyone who feigns compliance, this king can guarantee that no matter where you flee to, this king will definitely find you and punish you personally. Moo. Chapter 4293. There were only 2 intermediate space forbidden lands that Green Bull knew the exact location of. One was the Phoenix Blood Forbidden Land that had been breached, and the other was the Bai Meng Forbidden Land that was 10 billion miles away from the Phoenix Blood Forbidden Land. In Green Bull's impression, the Bai Meng Forbidden Land's overall strength was on par with the Phoenix Blood Forbidden Land. They both had 2 emperors, but they weren't birds. Instead, they were 2 copper behemoths with extremely strong physical bodies. However, this information was from more than 1,000 years ago. As for whether the details of these 2 mid-level starry sky forbidden zones had changed greatly during this time, even Green Ox did not know. This time, Yi Xian and Green Bull brought the Elephant Fox Marten out of the Phoenix Blood Starfield. Their destination was the Bai Meng Forbidden Land. Of course, because they didn't know the current situation of this powerful intermediate space forbidden land, plus Yi Xian's space nomadic army, countless great beings still needed some time to improve their strength. Hence, this time, Yi Xian and Green Bull didn't plan to cause a ruckus in the Bai Meng Forbidden Land. Instead, they planned to scout in the dark and wait for an opportunity to kill, just like the first time they went to the Phoenix Blood Starfield. Even though they didn't know the exact situation of the Bai Meng Forbidden Land, if they looked at the huge changes in strength of the Phoenix Blood Forbidden Land in the past 1,000 years, they could roughly figure it out. If there weren't any accidents, the Bai Meng Forbidden Land now had at least 4 to 5 emperors. Yi Xian didn't care about this. His original body was already at the 2nd level of the titled King Realm under normal circumstances, but after entering the Devil Ape true body state and transforming into a 30-meter-tall starry sky berserk ape, he was at the 3rd level of the titled King Realm. If he activated the 9 demon ape transformation and used the 6th transformation, his peak battle strength would reach Emperor level 9 peak. It could be said that he was invincible under Emperor level. No matter how strong the Bai Meng Forbidden Land was, as long as the 2 copper behemoths didn't break through to Emperor level, Yi Xian wasn't afraid of them at all. They weren't a threat at all. Xiao. In the boundless void of the universe, a ray of light shot out at an extremely fast speed, disappearing into the distant horizon in the blink of an eye. This ray of light was Yi Xian, the Green Ox, and the Elephant Fox Mink who had left the forbidden land of Phoenix Blood. The light was green in color. It was a green ox that was over 100 feet tall. Now that it was a feral king, its speed was swift to the extreme as it unleashed its full power. Coupled with the occasional teleportation, it traversed millions of miles of space in the blink of an eye. Left behind. Because of this time, Yi Xian did not exert himself to travel. Instead, he shrunk his body and sat cross-legged on the back of the green ox, maintaining a height of about 10 feet. On Yi Xian's shoulder, a strange purple long-nosed ferret the size of a palm was lying there. It was the Elephant Fox Mink. This fellow was only a 1st-level marquis. If it were to travel by itself, its speed would definitely be so slow that Yi Xian and the green ox would not be able to tolerate it. Therefore, this time, it could be considered to have benefited from Yi Xian. It was treated as a pet and laid on Yi Xian's shoulder, enjoying the extreme speed of the green ox's hooves together. The journey to the Bai Meng Forbidden Land was very long. It was a long journey of tens of billions of miles. Even with the green ox's maximum speed, it would take half a month to reach it. This was because the green ox knew the exact location of the Bai Meng Forbidden Land. Otherwise, if they were to travel aimlessly in the void, it would be easy for them to unknowingly deviate from their direction after a long time. The angle of deviation was limited in 1 or 2 days, but in 8 to 10 days, they would probably pass by each other. This was also the reason why there were so many forbidden areas and remnant star regions of various levels in the void of this primordial world fragment. However, other than the close neighbors in the star regions who knew of each other's existence, it was very difficult for them to interact with each other once they were far away. Yi Xian had never set foot in the direction to the Bai Meng star region before. As for the Green Ox, although it had known about the existence of the Bai Meng Forbidden Land more than 1,000 years ago, and even knew its exact location, that was only because it was in the same level as the Green Ox. It was because it was the leader of the undying fierce beasts in the rank Forbidden Land of Phoenix Blood. It heard it from others. As for this starry sky route to the Bai Meng star region, it had never set foot in it before. It was precisely because of this that the Green Ox actually did not know about the other small forbidden areas in the star regions along the way. After the three of them left the Forbidden Land of Phoenix Blood, 9 days passed very quickly under the full speed of the Green Ox. There were only 6 or 7 days left before they reached the Bai Meng Forbidden Land. It was also at this moment that a small forbidden area appeared in the vision of Yi Xian and the other two. Not to mention Yi Xian and the elephant fox ferret, even the Green Ox was rather surprised. This place was extremely far from the Bai Meng Forbidden Land. Even emperors would need 6 or 7 days to travel at full speed. This could be seen from this. Hence, even if they destroyed this small forbidden area, there would definitely not be any accidents that would alert the enemy. However, to Yi Xian and the Green Ox, such a small forbidden area did not pique their interest. If there was an entire nomadic army behind them, even if it was just a small force, they might be interested and send out their regular army forces to launch a punitive expedition. However, there was only Yi Xian, the Green Ox and the elephant fox ferret. There was no need to waste too much energy and time to completely destroy this small forbidden area. However, they could not let go of the commander of the fierce beasts within. The ruler of a small forbidden area was normally an official level undying, and there would usually be more than one. This was after all the blood essence of an official level, which could be used to make a level 22 emperor-level treasure pill. Even though Yi Xian had no use for it, he still had 8 emperor-level treasures in his hands. He only had 8 pills left. Hence, when he met an official level undying, he still had to make a move. It's actually emperor-level energy? As he extended his spirit sense, Yi Xian, who was sitting cross-legged on the back of the Green Ox, raised an eyebrow. As he muttered to himself, his eyes lit up. In the small space forbidden area ahead, he actually caught a thread of emperor-level energy. It was slightly unstable. Obviously, it had just broken through not too long ago and was still stabilizing it. Clearly, this king tier feral that had just ascended was merely a marquee immortal tier perfect class 9 not too long ago. Perhaps it had obtained some sort of opportunity that allowed it to smoothly ascend a major tier and become a feral king. This was something that could be proven by the strand of faint aura of the lightning tribulation that still remained in the space of this small restricted area in the starry sky ahead. Other than this emperor-level beast, there were still 2 middle-level official-level beast commanders in this small forbidden area. All 3 targets were the most hated bug clan by Yi Xian. If that was the case, there was nothing more to say. When encountering such disgusting bugs, Yi Xian would not hold back. He had to kill them. Chapter 4294. Moo! As Yi Xian stood up and brought the elephant fox mink lying on his shoulder away from the back of the Green Ox, the latter raised its head and angrily mooed. Its entire body instantly disappeared, and when it reappeared, it was already in this small forbidden area in the starry sky that was tens of thousands of kilometers away. Within the territory. As soon as he appeared, his body had already expanded to 100,000 feet in size. His killing intent surged, and his domineering aura was revealed. Of the 3 targets, the 2 middle-stage Marquis Realm experts were not in his eyes at all. Even if he allowed them to escape for a while, they would not be able to escape even if they had wings. As for the other one, although he had just broken through and hadn't even completely stabilized his realm, he was still a conferred king after all. Furthermore, the Green Ox's own cultivation level had only broken through to the conferred king realm a year ago. Although he was much stronger than this insect, if the other party tried to escape with all his might, the Green Ox wouldn't be able to guarantee that he would be able to kill him within 2 hours. Since Yi Xian had said that he would give him 2 hours, if he didn't do it, his old face would be red for a few days. Because of this, the Green Ox immediately teleported over before the other party could notice. As soon as it appeared, it locked onto the figure of the conferred King Realm Arachnid expert. Without saying a word, it stomped its hoof through the void and did not hesitate to use all its strength. Stomp. Ruthless. Rumble! This stomp contained all the power in the green ox's body. It was the full force of a conferred king expert. A formless and terrifying shockwave swept out, causing the void to tremble and rumble with thunder. The arachnid king, whose aura had long been locked onto, cried out in shock. Just as the roar came out of his mouth, he suddenly stopped. Although he had entered the conferred king realm, he had just broken through and his cultivation was not stable yet. He was not a match for the green ox to begin with, and now that the green ox had suddenly launched a sneak attack with all its might, he was caught off guard and could not even dodge. It was time. Boom! With a shocking explosion, the enormous body of the arachnid king instantly exploded, turning into a blood-green mist that dispersed with a loud bang. Before it could go far, the green ox opened its mouth and spat out a majestic invisible force that swept it up. It was wrapped up, compressed into a ball, and swallowed into its stomach. Screech! Screech! At the same time, countless ferocious howls could be heard in the surrounding void. Countless ferocious beasts and insect tribes in this small forbidden land of the starry sky screamed in horror and fled in all directions. Of which, the most eye-catching ones were the two official level Undyings. Against Green Bull, who had long stabilized his emperor level, they didn't even have the slightest intention of resisting. Their bloodline bodies shrunk to 300 m, becoming two streaks of light. From the left and right, they fled into the void outside the forbidden area. Unfortunately, even though Feng Ho was strong and his speed was not slow, he was still a joke in front of an emperor. Moo! The green ox stretched its neck and roared angrily. Its figure flashed as it teleported. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in the void on the left. It trampled on the marquee insect race that was fleeing in this direction. After compressing and swallowing the blood mist that exploded into its stomach, it flashed again. He was already in the distance to the right of the void. Screech! A despairing howl resounded. The last marquee insect race in this small forbidden land of the starry sky had fallen. Yi Xian gave the green ox 2 hours of time, but this old fellow shamelessly launched a sneak attack and easily ambushed a first-order king realm expert of the same realm. Therefore, by the time this battle ended, not to mention 2 hours, even half an incense stick's worth of time had passed. It didn't even take that long. To Green Bull, this was definitely a shocking result, worth bragging about. After the old fellow ended the battle, he proudly swung his oxtail and hopped over to Yi Xian. He opened his mouth and spat out the 3 compressed arachnid chi and blood. Yi Xian glanced at him in disdain. With a wave of his hand, he absorbed the 3 balls of blood essence into his body and sent them into the Shen Nong cauldron. He then began the blood essence refinement. In a short span of 10 breaths, the 3 balls of blood essence were completely refined. He used a small bottle to store them in the sealed cave at the bottom of the volcano in the central region. After the previous crazy refinement of various grades of elixirs, Yi Xian had already used up all his blood essences. He was only left with 4 marquee blood essences. Now, with this reward, he had 5 marquee blood essences. It was enough for him to refine level 23 pills. Level 23 pills. In addition, he also had 2 marquee blood essences that were used to refine level 22 pills. However, although the 5 marquee blood essences were enough for him to refine level 23 pills, Yi Xian didn't plan to start now. Although the 5 marquee blood essences could be used to refine level 23 pills, it was likely that there would only be 1 level 23 pill. If he gathered 10 marquee blood essences and refined them, there would be a 60 to 70% chance that there would be 3 level 23 pills. No matter how he looked at it, it wasn't worth it to refine them now. Since he wasn't in a rush to use them, he decided to refine them after he had gathered 10 or even more marquee blood essences. 2 marquee blood essences. 1 emperor. The high-level forces of this small-scale space forbidden land had all fallen. Even though there were large amounts of bug clan and ferocious beasts, even 10 normal Undyings, Yi Xian wasn't interested in them. He flashed and landed on the back of the green ox. He was about to order him to leave and continue on their way. It was also at this moment that the elephant fox mink, whose body had shrunk to the size of a foot and was lying on Yi Xian's shoulder like a pet, suddenly spoke out. "Boss, I've smelled a unique crystal aura from an abandoned planet in the void on the right in front of us. I've never seen it before, so I wonder if it's valuable." As it spoke, the elephantine fox ferret raised its tiny right paw and pointed to the void on the right. "Hey, it's over there. The storage of this unknown crystal seems to be quite large. Based on my feeling, I think they might be the soldiers of the four great kinetic races. A race effective. HM? Hearing these words, Yi Xian's body suddenly froze as a cry of surprise came out of his mouth. He turned around and looked in the direction of the elephant fox ferret's finger. In fact, at this moment, he did not quite believe the words of the elephantine ferret. It was not that he did not believe that there was some unknown mysterious crystal in a certain abandoned star in that direction, but he did not believe that this crystal could be used against void soldiers. A race effective. This was too much of a coincidence. He had just left Phoenix Blood Galaxy and found a suitable training resource for the bloodline evolution of the four kinetic energy races. This was unbelievable. Just as this thought flashed through his mind, a familiar system notification sounded out in Yi Xian's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for discovering the profound Jade Essence Crystal. Will you collect it immediately? Xian Jade Essence Crystal? Chapter 4295. Whoosh! Whoosh! A weak sound of breaking through the air rang out. The figures of Yi Xian and the Green Ox arrived at an abandoned planet in the blink of an eye. They stood in the void of the universe that was only 10,000 kilometers away from this planet. Boss, so your nose is sharper than a dog's? As soon as his body stopped moving, the elephant fox ferret lying on Yi Xian's shoulder muttered in a strange tone. There were too many abandoned planets in this area, more than 1,000 of them. When he pointed in this direction from afar, he only pointed in a general direction. He did not specify that he was talking about this abandoned planet in front of him. However, Yi Xian did not need to ask in detail at all. With a flash of his body, he arrived here. It was obvious that he had already determined that the abandoned planet that contained the mysterious crystal mineral was the one in front of him. This ability was comparable to the elephant fox ferret, who was said to have 1/3 of the treasure-seeking mouse bloodline. It was no wonder that he would mutter like this at this moment. Yi Xian naturally could not tell him about the devouring system in his body. He could only roll his eyes speechlessly. Then, he waved his hand, and an invisible and majestic force enveloped the abandoned planet thousands of kilometers away. And then, boom! Rumble. Continuous rumbling sounds could be heard. The entire abandoned planet was directly blasted apart by this majestic force. Immediately after, a purplish-green light flashed, and a large number of purplish-green crystals sputtered out from the core of the planet, scattering in all directions in the void. Hiss! There are actually so many? Seeing this scene, even Yi Xian was greatly surprised. He sucked in a breath of cold air and did not hesitate any longer. With a wave of his hand, he directly collected all the scattered profound jade essence crystals, wrapped them in an invisible force, and pulled them into the void of the universe in front of him. In an instant, Yi Xian, the green ox, and the elephant fox ferret were all illuminated with a purplish-green color. The crystals in the void in front of them were like small meteors. They were at least hundreds of millions of cubic meters in size. Some were big, some were small, and some were dark and some were light. Among them, more than 1,000 cubic meters were deep purple. They were the purest purple jade essence crystals. Whoosh! As Yi Xian waved his hand again, these 1,000 cubic meters of the purest purple jade essence crystals were stored in a small space box and sent into the undying world in his body. This kind of resource was very rare. These 1,000 cubic meters of purple jade essence crystals were the essence of all profound jade essence crystals. As for the remaining hundreds of millions of cubes of profound jade essence crystals that were of different purity and different shades of purple and cyan, Yi Xian planned to hand them all over to the tens of millions of soldiers in the Void Battle Claw. Previously, the elephantine ferret had said that he had an intuition that this mysterious unknown crystal should be effective on the Void Soldier Dipper clan of the Four Great Wara clan. This wasn't something he spoke casually. Moreover, there was proof behind this, and it was related to a certain innate ability of the treasure-seeking mouse's bloodline. But even so, the elephantine was only guessing. He didn't dare to be sure. He didn't even know the name of this mysterious crystal. In this regard, the devouring system within Yi Xian's body was clearly stronger. He hadn't come into contact with this kind of crystal before, so the system's information database was completely blank. However, once he came into contact with it, the system instantly deciphered it. Not only did it know the name of this crystal, but it also recorded its main effects in the system's database. According to the system's introduction, this profound jade essence crystal was indeed the best energy for the evolution of the Void Soldier clan's bloodline. Its formation was also related to the formation of the universe. It could be said to be of the same origin as the Void Soldier clan's bloodline. It could be said that with this harvest, such a huge amount of profound jade marrow crystals would definitely allow the tens of millions of void soldiers in the void battle armor to experience a great evolution in their bloodlines. It was as if their life forms had undergone a great evolution. Once this evolution was completed, the power of the void battle armor would increase tremendously. Originally, to the current Xianxia, the great killing weapon that was already considered a chicken rib would once again step onto the great stage that accompanied his growth. Whoosh! With excitement in his heart, Xianxia waved his hand and directly took out the void soldier clan of the 4 great battle clans from the undying world in his body. It hung in the void of the universe beside him. Hiss! Hiss hiss hiss! The moment the void soldier clan was taken out, from within the void soldier clan's body came the cries of countless Dao soldier clans. They were filled with joy and excitement. Even Xianxia was a little surprised, because he had never seen them so excited before. It was as if the entire soldier ladle clan had collectively been injected with chicken blood. Obviously, the tens of millions of soldier clans in the void soldier clan were so excited because they smelled the unique aura of the hundreds of millions of profound jade essence crystals in front of them. Just based on this point, one could conclude that these profound jade essence crystals had an astonishing effect on the evolution of the soldier clan's bloodline. Xianxia did not hesitate anymore. He directly waved his hand and instantly sent the hundreds of millions of profound jade essence crystals suspended in the void in front of him into the honeycomb nodes of the void soldier clan's void soldier clan. In the next moment, weak snapping sounds immediately came from all the honeycomb nodes of the void soldier clan. They were densely packed and overwhelming, as if countless silkworms were gnawing on mulberry leaves. Moreover, they were gnawing at them crazily, afraid that they would be slower than others. It was as if they would eat less if they took a step back. Boss, how long have you starved these soldier clans? Why do I feel like all of them are hungry wolves that have just come down the mountain? Isn't this too inhumane? Hearing the crazy gnawing sounds coming from the void soldier clan, the green ox and the elephant fox ferret lying on Xianxia's shoulder instantly had strange expressions. The old ox did not say anything, but the elephant fox ferret muttered, making Xianxia extremely embarrassed and rolling his eyes. If not for the fact that this fellow had indeed made a great contribution this time, Xianxia would have ruthlessly beaten him up for daring to talk about his boss like this. Although there were tens of millions of void soldier clans in the void soldier clan, and it seemed that it had indeed been a long time since they had replenished the energy that was beneficial to the evolution of their bloodline. Therefore, when they finally got a chance, they all gnawed on them ruthlessly. However, this time, there seemed to be quite a lot of profound jade essence crystals sent into all the honeycomb nodes of the void soldier clan by Xianxia. There were hundreds of millions of them in total. Evenly distributed, each soldier clans could get at least 10 cubic meters. These were profound jade essence crystals, which were extremely hard. Otherwise, they would not be effective against the void soldier clans. Even the soldier clans could only gnaw on this kind of resource bit by bit like a silkworm. 10 cubic meters was clearly not something that could be used up in a short period of time. Chapter 4296. Moo! The green ox let out an angry moo as its body shot out. In the blink of an eye, it was already tens of millions of kilometers away. After all, it was a titled Emperor stage expert. Tens of millions of kilometers of space were nothing to it. Boss Yu, aren't you being too impatient? Right at this moment, the elephant fox ferret that was lying on Xianxia's shoulder anxiously spoke again. It doesn't seem like it's time for us to leave yet. There's something even better in that place. Roar! The green ox snorted gloomily. Its 4 hooves suddenly stopped in midair, and it instantly braked. Old man, you did that on purpose, didn't you? You're panting when you talk. Xianxia was speechless. He rolled his eyes gloomily and exerted some force with his feet. The green ox immediately turned around and rushed towards the void that they had just left. In just a short breath, the 3 of them had already returned to their original point. They once again stood in the void of the universe in front of the exploded star. Speak, what other good things are there? Where is it? Xianxia raised his hand and directly twisted the elephant fox ferret off his shoulder. He threw it into the void in front of him with an unhappy expression. Wait a minute, the aura is a little strange. There's a very unique fragrance, and it's not the smell of the body, but the smell of the soul. The small figure of the elephant fox ferret tumbled a few times in the void, and after stabilizing itself, it immediately flew around the surrounding void. As it flew, it kept sniffing, and the words it said were even more strange and strange. The smell of the soul? And it's actually some kind of unique fragrance? Yi Xian was confused when he heard this. He subconsciously frowned. Why didn't this star master smell it? There was one more thing he did not say, and that was that not only him, even the devouring system in his body did not seem to have any reaction. This time, Yi Xian could not help but be a little suspicious. He thought that there might be something wrong with the elephant fox ferret's nose, or perhaps his intuition was wrong. After all, the devouring system in his body did not react, which was enough to prove that there was a problem. Yi Xian was still extremely reliant on it. Moo! That's right. Little ferret, I'm afraid you've made a mistake this time. The green ox also raised its head and mooed softly with an unfriendly expression. It continued in a muffled voice. This king's ox nose is also very sensitive. Back then, there were so many ox beauties. I blindfolded them and they flashed before my eyes one by one. I've never made a mistake. I'm right with one sniff. F***ck. Yi Xian was speechless. He rolled his eyes and cursed. It seemed that this damn ox was still brooding over the past. It kept thinking about those ox head beauties. It was almost turning into resentment. Beauty. A beauty. She was definitely a beauty. This old ox can smell it. This is the body fragrance of a beauty. It can directly produce an effect on the soul. This beauty who has long since passed away definitely has an extraordinary background. It was also at this moment that the elephantine, who had flown to the void behind him, suddenly shrieked with incomparable excitement. His figure directly transformed into a streak of lightning-like dark radiance, charging towards the abandoned star that was only a few million kilometers away from him. It's on this abandoned star. Boss, Nyo Er Wang. There is a beauty buried in the core of the abandoned star. Moo! Little Moo, stop right there. Upon hearing that there was a beauty, the green ox's reaction was actually faster than Yi Xian's. It immediately raised its head and mooed angrily. As soon as the mooing sounded, its figure had already disappeared. It actually directly teleported and appeared in the void in front of the elephantine. Bang! With a raise of its hind hooves, the elephantine that was charging in that direction was directly kicked away by the green ox's hooves. It howled miserably as its figure flew back thousands of kilometers. Humph, you little Moo. This king's ox head beauty. Why are you so agitated? After kicking the elephantine away, the green ox did not stop at all. As it muttered, it teleported again. In less than half a breath, it had already appeared in the sky above the abandoned star in front of it. It stood on its hind legs and stomped down with its front hooves. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion sounded. The even larger abandoned star instantly exploded. A ball of hazy green light shot out from the shattered core of the star and rushed into the void to the right. It was clearly a ball of profound jade essence crystal. It did not have the slightest bit of purple. It was the purest green crystal. It was not big, only about 3 meters in radius. The beauty that the elephantine was talking about was naturally not the ox-head beauty that the green ox had misunderstood. It was clearly a human woman wearing a blue gauze dress. Half of her left shoulder was gone, and there were many wounds on her body. Her gauze dress was stained with blood. However, her body was still relatively intact. Unfortunately, this woman who was sealed inside a piece of profound jade essence crystal had clearly died long ago. Moreover, she had most likely died countless years ago. Moo! Seeing this piece of profound jade essence crystal and the human woman sealed inside it, the green ox, who was originally extremely excited, raised its head and let out a sorrowful and angry moo, revealing a strong sense of despair. Where's the ox-head beauty that was promised? Why did she suddenly become a human? Damn it, she doesn't even have horns on her head, and her nostrils are smaller than copper bells. She's so king ugly. Such a peerless beauty, whether it was her appearance, figure, or graceful and otherworldly temperament, was definitely comparable to the corpse ancestor, drought demon, or the 9-tailed celestial fox. But now, she was criticized by the green ox to be so ugly. Such a strange aesthetic view shocked Yi Qingyu. A chill ran down Xian's spine. He almost impulsively attacked and killed this old fellow on the spot. Buzz! Wang wang wang. It was also at this moment that the primordial heavy artifact, Yan Luo, that Yi Xian had kept in his undying world, suddenly trembled violently without any warning. This situation had already happened twice before. The remains of the 9-tailed heavenly fox and the celestial phoenix maiden's treasures from their previous lives were discovered. At this time, all of them were like this. Thinking of this, Yi Xian's heart suddenly moved, and he cried out involuntarily, "It can't be so coincidental, right? Could it be that I bumped into another one? If that's the case, is the woman sealed in this profound jade essence crystal the fairy of the nine heavens, or fairy Xianxia?" Whoosh! As he cried out, Yi Xian's movements did not slow down at all. With a wave of his hand, the Yen Luo was taken out from the undying world in his body. It floated in the air in front of him, expanded with the wind, and turned into a pink silk cloth that was 100 feet wide, slowly unfolding. "Master, I'm the fairy of the mystery realm." Almost at the same time, from the pink silk cloth, an incomparably weak voice of a woman with a faint sense of fear quietly sounded. "The sisters are still in deep sleep and have not awakened, but the fairy of the mystery realm sensed the previous life, the aura of the treasure body, so the slumbering source of spiritual sense was unexpectedly awakened." "The fairy of the nine heavens? It's actually you." The guess in his heart was finally confirmed. Yi Xian's heart trembled, and his eyes instantly lit up. Chapter 4297. Get lost. Yi Xian was so angry that he kicked out, sending the green ox that was shamelessly rubbing against him flying. After rolling his eyes, he once again swept his gaze towards the 300-meter-long silk net in front of him. After thinking for a while, he asked, "Mysterious fairy, the nine-tailed celestial fox and the celestial phoenix maiden were able to reconstruct their real bodies with the help of their past lives. Can you do the same? If so, do you need me to help you put away your past life treasure in front of you? Although I am only left with a trace of my spiritual sense, it is still the treasure of my past life and they can still sense each other. Otherwise, I would not have suddenly woken up in advance." The gentle voice of the nine heavens mystic fairy could be heard again from the pink treasure that was fluttering in the wind. "Master, you only need to watch from the side. If there are no other problems, I will take back the treasure body of my previous life and use it to reconstruct my true body of this life." Yi Xian nodded. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat, and he subconsciously blurted out, "That's right, this Star Master has seen the treasures of the nine-tailed heavenly fox and the celestial phoenix maiden from their previous lives, and they are quite incomplete. Their real bodies have been restored to the immortal realm. Looking at your precious body from your previous life, although it has some scars, it is only missing half an arm. Moreover, the entire precious body is sealed within a piece of profound jade essence crystal. Although it has been through countless years, the energy loss in the precious body should be very limited. So, once you use this past life treasure to reconstruct your real body, I wonder what level your cultivation will reach." Regarding this matter, Yi Xian was a little disappointed. He originally thought that the nine-tailed heavenly fox would be able to sculpt her true body using the treasure of her previous life. Even if her cultivation wasn't at the peak of the primordial era in his previous life, she would at least be able to recover to the level of king or emperor immortal. No problem. The result made him speechless. She was only an ordinary immortal. This time, the nine heavens fairy's past life treasure was perfectly preserved. After recalling this matter, he suddenly had new hope. If he could have an emperor or even an emperor as his loyal subordinate, it would be of great significance to Yi Xian. Not only would it benefit him, but it would also greatly increase the growth of the entire nomadic army. Therefore, as long as there was even the slightest possibility of this happening, there was no way he wouldn't pay attention to it and place high hopes on it. My precious body from my previous life is indeed still intact. However, I used up too much energy in that battle back then. Before my main body fell, my precious body was damaged. Hence, although I can use it to reconstruct my true body, once I succeed, my strength won't be as low as a normal undying realm, but it won't be too strong. The voice of the nine heavens maiden continued. According to my estimation, he should be around the level of immortal Marquis. He's still some distance away from immortal Marquis. You've just been conferred the title of Marquis? This is too weak. Upon hearing this result, Yi Xian was once again disappointed. There were a total of 7 primordial spiritual sources sealed in the Luo Yen Luo. Including the nine heavens maiden, there were already 6 primordial spiritual sources that had awakened. However, as more and more primordial spiritual sources awakened in the Luo Yen Luo, every time a new primordial spiritual source woke up, the joy in Yi Xian's heart gradually faded. He still remembered that when the corpse ancestor Hidorigami woke up and reconstructed his true body, his strength was only half-step universe realm. However, Yi Xian was extremely happy and regarded him as a great support, even like a backing mountain. And now the newly awakened Nine Heavens Maiden, once she reconstructed her true body, her strength would directly return to a mortal marquis level. However, to Yi Xian, this strength was of little use. The help it provided to him was almost negligible. Even though this makes me a little speechless, but, from another perspective, it also shows that this Star Lord's cultivation is advancing too quickly. This is also something to be happy about. Thinking of this, Yi Xian's gloominess dissipated a lot. He muttered softly and shook his head again with a self-deprecating smile. Master, you're already a marquis-level immortal marquis. It's understandable that you feel that the Nine Heavens Maiden's strength is too weak after she restores her strength. Just as Yi Xian was sighing, the Nine Heavens Maiden's gentle voice sounded from the pink silk in front of him again. However, Master, don't worry. The seven of us sisters were all powerful beings of the primordial era in our previous life. Although we've reincarnated in this life, after we reconstruct our true bodies, once we recover, our strength will increase very quickly. And, if there are no accidents, we'll definitely be able to reach the pinnacle of the primordial era. It's just a matter of time. If Master needs strong help now, Xianxia, who hasn't awakened yet, may be able to give you a surprise. What do you mean? Hearing this, Yi Xian's eyes lit up instantly and he asked anxiously. The battle back then was very fierce. And before this source of consciousness was absorbed into the treasure, some of the seven of us sisters didn't even meet each other. So, when the original bodies of the seven sisters died, they were not together, and even at different times. Only Xianxia and I were the best sisters before the battle back then. And, when the original bodies of the two of us died, the two of us joined forces to fight against the enemy. Xianxia died before the mysterious maiden, and the reason why the mysterious maiden's treasure body in her previous life was damaged to the point that she had to use it to reconstruct her true body in this life, and her strength could only recover to the level of a marquis. That was where Xianxia died back then. After that, the mysterious maiden used her own source to completely seal her treasure body after she died. When she died, Xianxia's treasure body was not only intact, but there were no scars because she was ambushed by the enemy during the battle of the spirit consciousness. More than half of her godly soul dissipated, and she died. Even in her sealed treasure body, there was still a strand of remnant soul. If we can find this Xianxia treasure body that was sealed by the mysterious maiden using her own source, once the source of consciousness in Xianxia's treasure body wakes up and swallows the remnant soul in the treasure body of the previous life, she can use the treasure body of the previous life to reconstruct her true body in this life. Her strength will at least recover to the level of an emperor immortal, and she may not be too far away from the level of an emperor immortal. What? There's such a good thing? Chapter 4298. Master, don't be anxious. Back then, the reason why the Empyrean Fairy didn't hesitate to consume the innate source of the precious body of her past life that was about to perish was to completely seal Sister Xianxia's complete precious body and hide it from the strong enemy's detection. It was all for today. Because even though countless years have passed, Sister Xianxia's precious body of her past life is definitely fine. As if sensing the anxiety in Yi Xian's heart, the Empyrean Fairy's voice faintly revealed a hint of complacency in the pink treasure net that stretched in the void ahead. After a brief explanation, she continued, "Here are the star coordinates of Sister Xianxia's complete precious body of her past life. It's in the core of a giant life star. Master, please keep it well." Whoosh! As soon as she finished speaking, a ray of light shot out from the pink silk and disappeared into Yi Xian's forehead in the blink of an eye. In the next moment, the Empyrean Fairy's voice sounded again. This ray of light not only contains the star coordinates of the place where Sister Xianxia's precious body of her past life is hidden, but also a divine sense imprint of the Empyrean Fairy. The seal back then was personally set up by the Empyrean Fairy using her innate source. Therefore, unless it's a primordial supreme whose cultivation is stronger than the Empyrean Fairy, no one can break the seal without the Empyrean Fairy's divine sense imprint. It won't work. Master, everything has been explained. If there's nothing else, the Empyrean Fairy will now take back her precious body of her past life. Then, she will fall into a deep sleep for a period of time to rebuild her true body of this life. When she wakes up again, she will be truly reborn. All right, I'll leave everything to you. Seeing hope again, Yi Xian was in a good mood and immediately nodded. As he spoke, he waved his hand and instantly shot a ray of light into the smoke net that stretched in the wind ahead. At the same time, he said, "These are some cultivation resources, including the all-evil source liquid, top-grade flesh medicine, netherworld furnace lotion, innate chilling spirit liquid, and so on. These are all resources that can be used by Hanba and the rest. After you take back your precious body of your past life, you can use them when you rebuild your true body of this life. I believe it will be of some help. These are indeed good things. In this way, after the Empyrean Fairy rebuilds her true body of this life, her cultivation and strength will be stronger once she wakes up. In the pink silk net in the void ahead, the Empyrean Fairy's voice with endless joy. Thank you, Master. You're so good. Empyrean Fairy and my sisters are so lucky. I didn't expect Master to be so easygoing. I'm really happy. As soon as he finished speaking, a green light rushed out of the pink treasure net. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared into the mysterious jade essence crystal in the void in front of him. T. 2. In the blink of an eye, they turned into small green fireflies and collapsed with a loud bang. Immediately after, all the fireflies seemed to be sucked in by an invisible force and gathered together. They turned into a trickling stream and poured into the pink silk in the void in front of them. In just 2 short breaths, they had completely disappeared. The precious body of the past life has been retracted. There is no more suspense in reconstructing the true body of this life. Soon, the Empyrean Fairy will be completely reborn. After all this was done, the voice of the Empyrean Fairy came from the pink silk net in the void ahead again, revealing endless joy. Thank you, Master, for your kindness of rebirth. When the Empyrean Fairy wakes up in the future, I will definitely repay you generously. Please, take care. After saying this, there was no more movement in the pink silk net. Obviously, after countless years, the last wisp of spiritual sense of the Empyrean Fairy, who had successfully retracted the precious body of the past life, had fallen into a deep sleep at the first moment, and used this to rebuild the present. The true body of the past life. Soon, when she woke up again, it would be equivalent to being reborn and completely reborn. At that time, under Yi Xian's command, there would be one more powerful subordinate in the realm of Marquis. Moreover, she would be completely loyal to him and would be completely loyal to him. Thinking of this, his mood suddenly improved. He grinned and muttered, compared to the domineering Hidorigami and the strange fox girl, this girl is really very obedient. Whoosh! Before he finished speaking, Yi Xian waved his hand and instantly put the Yen Luo into the undying world in his body. At this time, the green ox, who had been kicked tens of millions of miles away by him, also ran back, swinging its tail. Boss, congratulations, congratulations. You have another ox. No, it should be a beauty of the human race. As his 4 hooves kicked wildly, the old fellow had already arrived in front of Yi Xian in just a few breaths. He had a fawning smile on his face, but his heart was obviously still thinking about his ox beauty. He almost spilled the beans, but Yi Xian glared at him, so he changed his words. Look, where are the coordinates of this starry sky, and how far is it from us? As he spoke, Yi Xian waved his hand and instantly copied the coordinates of the star that the Empyrean Fairy had just given him. He compressed it into a ray of light and shot it towards the green ox's forehead. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. Aren't these the interstellar coordinates of the beaming Forbidden Land? Looking at the size of this star, it should be the nest of one of the 2 king realm copper behemoths in the beaming Forbidden Land. Although the green ox had never been to the beaming Forbidden Land, he was a native of this primordial world fragment void after all. Moreover, he was the leader of the ferocious beasts in the Forbidden Land of Phoenix Blood back then, so he still had many channels of information access. In addition, the giant star that could become the nest of the ferocious beast kings in the beaming Forbidden Land was clearly not an existence that could be seen everywhere. It had a certain uniqueness. Therefore, the green ox did not have much time to think about it. It only took a few breaths to get the answer. In the end, it nodded its huge ox head and raised its head to look at Yi Xian. It snorted and asked, Boss, how did you get the interstellar coordinates of this place? Could it be that you obtained the chi and blood of that fallen king who had just broken through and whose realm had not stabilized? Did you get it from the sea? At this point, the green ox paused. It frowned and hesitated for a moment. In the end, it seemed to have made up its mind and gritted its teeth to persuade. Boss, that guy is from the insect race. A beauty that can be remembered by him must also be an ugly insect. Elder Lien. Even the ox-headed beauty is not as good as her. You better not have too much hope. Get lost. Yi Xian was furious. He kicked out again and directly kicked the green ox into rolling in the void. A miserable howl came from its mouth, and in the blink of an eye, it was tens of millions of kilometers away. Chapter 4299. After leaving the small forbidden area in the starry sky, Xian, the azure ox, and the elephant fox sable rushed all the way. They didn't rest for a moment and spent another 7 days before finally arriving at their destination. At this moment, it had already been half a month since the three of them left the forbidden area of Phoenix Blood. Half a month ago, Green Cow didn't stop at all, teleporting from time to time, leaving behind tens of billions of li of space. Another 50 million li and they would be at the edge of the beaming forbidden land. According to the Green Ox, more than 1,000 years ago, when the two ferocious beast kings of the forbidden land of Phoenix Blood were only at the early stage of the conferred king stage, the two copper behemoths of the forbidden land of Behemoth were already at the middle stage of the conferred king stage. The forbidden land of the starry sky, but the forbidden land of Bai Meng was still stronger than the forbidden land of Phoenix Blood. 1,000 years had passed in the blink of an eye, and the two early kings in the forbidden land of Phoenix Blood had reached the 6th stage of the Emperor Immortal Realm. Then, the two copper behemoths in the forbidden land of Behemoth were definitely late-stage Emperor Immortal Realm. He had to be at least level 8 Emperor level, or even level 9 Emperor level pinnacle, or even a new Emperor level. To Xian, this was definitely not good news. His original body was currently Emperor level 2. Activating the Demon Ape bloodline within him would give him level 3 strength. And the moment he unleashed the Demon Ape transformation bloodline ability to the 6th transformation, his strength would instantly rise to Emperor level 9. Peak level. If the two copper behemoths of the Bai Meng starfield were only Emperor level 8, there wouldn't be a problem. However, if they were both peak level 9, then Xian wouldn't have a chance of winning at all. Once one of these two crimson copper behemoths had already broken through a great realm and become an Emperor level expert, then the situation would become even more dangerous. All of this, Xian had already considered before he left. However, he didn't care at that time, because his original plan was just to walk around and kill 1 or 2 emperors in the Bai Meng Forbidden Land, hunting in the dark and escaping as soon as he succeeded. Then he would have nothing to fear. However, the situation now was completely different. Fairy Xia's precious body was sealed in the star core of a copper behemoth's nest. Xian had to explore no matter what. Then, he would definitely be exposed. If his cultivation base was not as strong as his opponent's, although he still had all sorts of supreme abilities and treasures, as his cultivation base increased greatly, and now that he had reached the conferred king realm, the effect of these supreme abilities on his overall combat strength was clearly far inferior to before. Yes. When he was still weak, Xian could use the fallen sky bow to kill enemies that were a few realms higher. But now, with the same bow with his current emperor level, he could only kill an emperor level warrior at most, and he would have to pay a huge price to do so. He would be weakened immediately. If it was one-on-one, it would be fine, but there were at least 4 emperors in the Bai Meng Forbidden Land. Under such circumstances, even if he had the fallen sky bow, he wouldn't dare to use it casually. Otherwise, he would be putting himself in danger. Realm. The only solution was to break through again. That way, once his original body's strength reached Emperor level 3, he would activate the Demon Ape bloodline and unleash the 9 Demon Ape transformation bloodline ability to level 6. After the change, Xian's battle prowess would leap across a large realm and reach the first level of the Emperor realm. That way, there wouldn't be any accidents. However, the stronger one's cultivation was, the more difficult it would be to break through. Xian was originally an anomaly, and he would break through once or twice every few days. After accumulating for a long time, his state of mind had long since become unstable. Although this time he had stopped. Even after half a month, he didn't try to break through again. But in this half a month, he had been on the road, and the stability of his mental state required an opportunity or a great battle to achieve it. In short, the current him was not suitable for another breakthrough. Xian even had a feeling that even if he tried, the final result would be failure. That was obviously not necessary. Otherwise, if he really failed, the impact on his mental state would be even more obvious. It seems that I urgently need a great battle to completely stabilize my unstable mental state. Muttering softly, Xian's gaze swept to the right of the void, and finally locked onto an abandoned star in a remote corner tens of millions of miles away. He immediately sent out his divine sense to the green ox below him. Moo! The green ox snorted, and with a flash of its body, it immediately changed direction and shot towards the void on the right. After a while, the 3 of them entered the interior of this abandoned star, found a deep canyon, and hid in the deepest part of it. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Before we carry out any specific actions, we'll follow the old rules and figure out the situation of this beaming forbidden land first. After entering the canyon, Yi Xian turned to look at the green ox and the elephant fox marten. His eyes flickered as he continued, the two copper behemoths in the beaming forbidden land are at least at the late stage of the 8th level of this realm, far from the two middle-stage copper behemoths in the forbidden land of phoenix blood. The ferocious birds are comparable, and it is very likely that they have reached the Emperor realm. Even if we make a move, if we are slightly careless, we may be sensed by them if we are close. The divine sense of a late-stage emperor is very powerful. So, the best way is to lure the target out of the beaming forbidden land. This place is still tens of millions of miles away from the edge of the forbidden land, and it is the most suitable place to start. As long as we move quickly, we can avoid the divine sense of the two copper behemoths. Speaking of this, Yi Xian turned to the elephant fox marten. You have the bloodline of the treasure-seeking mouse in your body, so the task of attracting the target will be yours. Remember, hide your cultivation, and only attract an ordinary immortal being. If it is a marquee, if there is an accident during the hunt, I'm afraid it will alert the enemy. It is definitely not a problem to attract the prey. Hearing this, the elephant fox marten nodded. With a sway of its body, it instantly hid the cultivation of a marquee that he had just broken through to become an ordinary third-level immortal being. As for its body, it maintained a height of about 10 feet, and also showed its bloodline body. It was obviously a treasure-seeking mouse with a long elephant trunk. This kind of creature was born with a strong intuition for all kinds of heaven and earth treasures, and its sense of smell was extraordinary. If it appeared at the edge of the beaming forbidden land and deliberately waited for an opportunity to show its face, it would be easy to attract an immortal being from the forbidden land. Ferocious beasts. Third-level immortal being is just right. So, let's go. Chapter 4300. Whoosh. Half a day later, a purple streak of light shot over from the void in front of the abandoned planet. It was extremely fast, and there was a hint of impatience in it. This purple streak of light belonged to the elephantine, who was in charge of luring the enemy. Based on the appearance of his bloodline true body, even the sempiternal ferocious beast commander could tell that this was a ferocious beast with a bloodline of a treasure-seeking mouse. Furthermore, the treasure-seeking mouse bloodline in his body was not weak. It was at least 30% of the original bloodline. Generally speaking, the appearance of such a thing meant that there was some kind of treasure nearby. Furthermore, the elephantine had deliberately displayed an impatient aura. It would be strange if the enemy did not take the bait. Soon, an obscure aura suddenly appeared a few million miles behind the elephantine. It was also very fast as it followed the elephantine. Judging from the aura, the person who had taken the bait was a late-stage sempiternal stage 7 ferocious beast. It was no wonder that he was so confident and had followed the elephantine alone. He was obviously confident that he could defeat the elephantine. However, this old fellow's sempiternal stage 3 cultivation was just a facade. He was actually a marquee realm old monster, so he was naturally aware of the commotion behind him. Pretending not to notice, the elephantine turned into a faint purple streak of light and quickly rushed into the abandoned planet's interior. This was obviously because he had arrived at the end of the planet. The ferocious beast commander behind him was so excited that he did not even bother to conceal his aura anymore. He rushed into the planet's interior in the blink of an eye. Beth. Almost at the same time, Yi Xian, who had been waiting for a long time, fully activated the mental power source core in his brain. Pure level 9 mental power spread out and performed a perfect vibration. However, unlike in the past, he did not completely conceal his body. The vibration effect of his mental power spread out and covered half of the planet. This was something that he could not do in the past. Now that he had broken through to the Regis stage, he was much stronger, so it was possible. In an instant, the aura of the elephant fox marten and the bait, as well as the void of a small part of the star, were all perfectly concealed. Even if a late-stage emperor scanned it with his powerful divine sense, he would not be able to find any clues unless he deliberately observed it carefully. Moo! At the same time, the green ox that was waiting quietly on the other side snorted. A pair of front hooves that had long been prepared instantly stepped out and fiercely imprinted on the back of the bait. However, it restrained its strength and only crushed the entire body below the head. In a short while, he was half dead. Go! Yi Xian reached out his hand and covered the dying beast's head with his mental power. He dragged it toward the deep valley where he was previously hiding. Moo! The green ox snorted and sucked in all the bloody mist from the exploding body of the ferocious beast into its stomach. Not a single strand was left behind. After confirming that there were no traces, it followed closely behind with the elephant fox mink. In the blink of an eye, the figures of the three of them had already vanished. Everything on the spot was as if nothing had happened, and it could be said to be watertight. To emperors, soul-searching was an extremely simple matter. After all, their consciousness was too powerful. Not to mention that this ferocious beast of the Forbidden Grounds still had a complete head and had yet to die. Even if it was just a strand of its soul, Xianxia could easily soul-search it. Everything ended very quickly. In the end, the head of the ferocious beast of the Forbidden Grounds was smashed into a bloody mist and entered the green ox's stomach. However, the results of the soul search stunned Xianxia. He opened his mouth and sighed after a long while. The situation was indeed not good, and not optimistic. There were not only 4 or 5 ferocious beast kings in the Forbidden Grounds, but a terrifying 8. Moreover, the 2 copper behemoths that were already 6th-level emperors more than 1,000 years ago were now 9th-level emperors at the peak of 9th-level emperors. Although Xianxia could also have the battle strength of a 9th-level emperor after using the bloodline ability of the 9 transformations of the demonic ape to the 6th transformation. Once he entered the 6th transformation, his body would explode to 10 million feet tall like a star. Concealment would undoubtedly be the same as fighting head-on. The opponents were 2 9th-level emperors. How could Xianxia have the upper hand in a 1 versus 2 battle? What's more, other than the 2 9th-level emperors, there were still 6 other 9th-level emperors. The green ox and the elephant fox ferret were not even enough to fill the gaps between the teeth of the 6 ferocious beast kings. Seems like a head-on battle is impossible. They have the advantage of overwhelming us all. Shaking his head with a bitter smile, Xianxia immediately set the main tone of the follow-up plan. This time, if there are no major changes, we'll still hunt in the dark and take them down one by one. Other than the 2 9th-level emperors, of the other 6 9th-level emperors in this Forbidden Grounds, half of them are early-level emperors, while the other half are middle-level emperors. Other than that, of the 6 early-level and middle-level ferocious beast kings, only 4 of them are in the Forbidden Grounds like the 2 copper behemoths. As for the other 2, they have left the Forbidden Grounds not too long ago, and seem to have gone to other Forbidden Grounds in the surrounding starfields to visit friends. Of the 2 visiting ferocious beast kings, one is early-level emperors, while the other is middle-level emperors. We don't know where the early stage one went, but the other one, the Emperor level 555 colored deer, went to the immortal Jade Forbidden Land in the space to the right of Baimeng Forbidden Land. If there are no accidents, this 5-colored deer will return in a few days. Because in the star it oversees, there's a type of spirit fruit that's about to ripen soon. This fruit is the 5-colored deer's favorite spirit fruit, and it ripens once every 100 years, with a duration of only 9 days. He has never missed it, hence, within a month, this 5-colored deer will return. Within a month, this 5-colored deer will definitely return. At this point, Xianxia's eyes flashed, and he subconsciously licked the corner of his mouth before grinning. More importantly, this 5-colored deer thinks highly of himself, and has always boasted of being noble and aloof. In the entire Behemoth Forbidden Grounds, other than the 2 9th-level Emperor Undying Behemoths, the Perfection Realm Copper Behemoth almost never listens to anyone, and has always been a lone wolf. Moo! Then what else is there to say? A dignified king-level ferocious beast, but it's full of bad habits. This guy is simply courting death. Hearing this, the green ox did not wait for Xianxia to finish speaking, and immediately snorted excitedly. It scratched its right hind hoof and stared at Xianxia, asking for orders to fight on the spot. Boss, don't hesitate. There's no time to lose. Let's immediately rush to that dead deer's path of return. Along the way, lie in wait. As long as he appears, immediately kill him on the spot. What? You're only a 1st-level emperor, and you want to fight a 5th-level emperor Undying Beast King alone? Xianxia rolled his eyes and rudely retorted the green ox. Chapter 4301. With your current marquee cultivation, you won't be able to interfere in this battle at all. After making his decision, Xianxia turned around and swept his gaze towards the elephant fox mink. His expression turned solemn as he continued. Moreover, that 5-colored deer is a 5th-order king. Its divine perception and divine sense are both extremely powerful. If I were to leave you outside, I'm afraid that the heavens would be exposed. Whoosh! As he spoke, Yi Xian waved his hand and directly summoned the farmer god cauldron from his body. Of course, it was in a miniature form. Otherwise, the deep canyon where the three of them were hiding would not be able to contain it at all. Even the planet might explode from the pressure. Go in and hide for a few days. If you have nothing to do, go into seclusion and cultivate. After he finished speaking, Yi Xian waved his hand and an invisible force instantly swept up the elephantine's body. It transformed into a purple light and shot into the mouth of the Shunnong cauldron that was filled with 9-colored fog, disappearing without a trace. Boss, are we leaving now? As Yi Xian waved his hand again and stored the farmer god cauldron into his undying world, the green ox's eyes immediately lit up as it excitedly spun around on the spot. Yi Xian nodded and didn't say anything else. His figure flashed and landed on the back of the green ox. After sitting down cross-legged, he directly activated the spirit core that was suspended above the sea of consciousness in his mind, activated the 9th level of spirit energy, and executed a perfect vibration to connect himself and the green ox. His figure was perfectly restrained. Moo! Under the continuous effect of the perfect vibration, no aura would spread out, let alone sound. The green ox wantonly raised its head and let out a heaven-shaking moo. Following that, it stomped on the ground and its body turned into a faint, invisible green light. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared from the planet. He rushed out of the abandoned planet and shot toward the void on his right. The divine sense of a Regis powerhouse, when spread out in all directions, could instantly envelop the vast void of the universe within a radius of 100 million miles. This was only for ordinary Regis powerhouses. If it was a half-step emperor at the peak of rank 9, then once their powerful divine sense was spread out, it would instantly envelop the vast star field within a radius of 400 to 500 million miles. Therefore, Yi Xian chose the location of the ambush this time to be about 300 million miles away from the right side of the forbidden area of the beaming forbidden area. From the right side of the forbidden area to the center of the forbidden area where the 2 copper behemoths resided, there was still a distance of 200 million miles. In total, the location of the ambush was close to 500 million miles away from the nest of the 2 half-step emperors. As a result, as long as they didn't deliberately extend their divine sense to the right, even if they extended it in all directions, they wouldn't be able to detect what was happening at the ambush site. As for the 5-colored deer, its cultivation was only at the 5th level of the titled King realm. Although it could condense its divine sense and extend it in a single direction, it could still transmit it to the void of the universe that was 500 million kilometers away. However, Yi Xian obviously wouldn't give it this opportunity. A half-step Emperor Realm 9th level titled Emperor would have no problem killing a 5th level titled Emperor if he was caught off guard. It was a sure win situation. In less than a day, the Green Ox and Yi Xian had already arrived at the space 300 million miles away from the right side of the forbidden area of the beaming forbidden area. They purposely chose a more remote area, between 2 abandoned stars that were separated by 1,000,000 miles. Within Chen, he went into hibernation. What they had to do next was to wait quietly. After a full 29 days, in the distant space in front of them, a colorful cloud finally floated over. Above the colorful cloud was a starry sky deer that was only 1,000 feet long. Its entire body was mottled, and its skin was colorful. Its expression was cold and extraordinary, and it had an otherworldly aura. It was the 5-colored deer from the forbidden area of the beaming forbidden area. Seeing the appearance of the main character, Yi Xian was surprised to discover that this lonely and arrogant starry sky deer was actually a female deer. Thinking of this, Yi Xian's heart skipped a beat. He subconsciously glanced at the abandoned star where the green ox was hiding 1,000,000 miles away. He faintly felt a sense of unease and apprehension. This 5-colored deer with a cold and arrogant aura, no matter how one looked at it, it had a bit of otherworldly beauty, and it was even a female. Although deer and cattle were not of the same species, the old green bull had never been too particular about this. Furthermore, although they were of different breeds, deer and cows were at least the same. They were all 4-legged creatures with horns on their heads. Under this kind of temperament, the green ox might not be able to control itself. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this was the case. Yi Xian's eyelids suddenly twitched, and he felt that something was going to happen. The old ox was too unreliable, and he could not be at ease. Moo! Sister Lu in front, can I have a word with you? Just as Yi Xian was worried, the starry sky deer that was riding on the 5-colored cloud was already 1,000,000 miles away. It just so happened to pass by the abandoned star where the green ox was hiding. Before Yi Xian could react, a clear cadence of moos sounded from the interior of the abandoned star, revealing a strong sense of coquettish love. Following that was the ravings of the green ox, that old fogey. Meeting in the starry sky is fate. Come, 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 if you pledge your life to me, this old ox will give you a good fortune. Screech! The starry sky deer's figure suddenly stopped, and it turned its head to look inside the star in shock. When it saw that it was actually an old ox that was only a first-level titled king teasing it, it was immediately enraged. It raised its head and roared, then charged into the star. Damn old thing, you dropped the ball at the critical moment and almost ruined everything. Seeing that the starry sky deer did not immediately contact the behemoth Forbidden Land, Yixian broke out in a cold sweat. His expression darkened as he cursed, and his figure instantly rushed out. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in the void of the universe outside the star. He raised his head and roared. Roar! 9 Devil Ape Transformations. 6th Transformation. In the next moment, as this wild roar sounded, the terrifying power in his body instantly churned violently. His originally 30-meter-tall body expanded at an incomparably terrifying speed like a star exploding, including the cultivation that was emitted from his body. His aura was the same. Originally, the starry sky violent ape, which was only 100 feet tall, emitted a cultivation aura of a 3rd-level Emperor Immortal. However, at this moment, as he directly used the 6th transformation of the 9 Devil Ape Transformations bloodline ability, his body expanded explosively. Furthermore, it was climbing at an extremely fast speed that made one's hair stand on end. In less than a breath of time, when the explosive aura finally stabilized, the aura emitted from Yixian's body had clearly reached the shocking perfection of the 9th stage of the conferred king realm. In other words, he was a half-step emperor. Chapter 4302. Who are you? Why are you trying to kill me? Suddenly, a space berserk ape as strong as the 2 copper behemoths in the beaming Forbidden Land appeared. It was an Emperor level 9 peak, half-step Emperor level. The 5-color deer was so frightened that it almost collapsed on the spot. He cried out in shock. I am one of the 8 great kings of the beaming Forbidden Land. The beaming Forbidden Land also has half-step emperors, and there are even 2 of them. Fellow Taoist Bao Yuan, don't make a mistake. No matter where you are from, if you dare to kill me, the entire beaming Forbidden Land will fight to the death with you. Screech! At the end of its sentence, the 5-colored deer let out a long and mournful howl. A strand of invisible divine sense condensed into a needle in its body and shot towards the beaming Forbidden Land. He clearly wanted to use this strand of divine sense that had condensed into a needle to break through Yixian's pressure and immediately report to the 2 copper behemoths in the behemoth forbidden area for help. Dear, it's useless. You're only a 5th-level emperor. Even if you condense your divine sense into a needle, you won't be able to break through my suppression. When it saw this scene, the starry sky violent ape that was enormous like a star shook its head and spoke softly. Before he finished speaking, he raised his hand and pointed gently. The divine sense needle that shot out instantly disintegrated and dissipated completely. Roar! Boom! Rumble! In the next moment, the space violent ape raised its head and roared. Its right fist suddenly swung out like a meteor, causing the void to tremble and shatter inch by inch. An earth-shattering explosion rang out. Countless void turbulences rushed out from the collapsed void of the universe. Each of them was extremely sharp. The green ox that was rushing out of the dormant star ahead let out a strange cry. He swung his tail and immediately had a sad expression on his face. It angrily turned around and fled. Shio shio shio. Screech. Countless sharp sounds of space breaking rang out. In this universe that had been shattered by the punch, a large amount of space turbulence formed space blades that cut countless bloody wounds on the body of the 5-colored deer. Under the intense pain, the 5-colored deer stretched its neck and let out a mournful cry. Its roar was filled with unwillingness. Pang! It's over. In practically the next instant, the violent starry sky ape's enormous fist that was like a meteor smashed right before his eyes, directly landing on the back of the 5-colored deer that was covered in bloody scars. A terrifying force that was boundless to the point of causing one's hair to stand on end surged in, and in less than half a breath of time, the 5-colored deer was completely annihilated. The deer's body exploded. With a boom, it exploded into a blood mist and spread out. Screech! Within the surging boundless bloody mist, a tiny 5-colored blazing light charged out and emitted a vicious howl as it fled in the opposite direction of the Starsky violent ape. Its speed was swift to the point it surpassed the speed of light, and in the blink of an eye, it had already traversed a distance of 25,000 kilometers. Xiao! You won't be able to escape. A murmur came out from the mouth of the space-violent ape. Before it finished speaking, its huge body had already disappeared from its original spot. In the blink of an eye, it was tens of millions of miles away, just in time to block the path of the tiny five-color light. Almost at the same time, the raging star ape suddenly opened its bloody mouth, and a terrifying suction force was emitted, directly swallowing the five-colored light that was shot at it into its stomach. At the same time, 50 million miles away, in the place where even the void had been shattered, the five-color deer's body exploded into a majestic blood mist that had just been dispersed by the raging void turbulence, and in an instant, it gathered again and turned into a river of blood shot towards the mouth of the galactic ferocious ape. In just a few short moments, this majestic river of blood that represented all the blood and chi of a fifth-order king realm expert was completely swallowed by the space-violent ape, and immediately sent into the Shennon cauldron in its body to start the blood essence refinement. The five-color deer fell. Its body and soul were destroyed. Swish! As all the blood mist from the explosion of the five-color deer's body was sucked away, the space where the five-color deer was originally standing in soon began to emit a dense and crisp sound, like the sound of silk being torn apart. Turning around, a vast universe void that was close to 1,000,000 miles in radius was rapidly collapsing, forming a large-scale universe black hole. Moreover, the edges of the black hole were still rapidly radiating in all directions. The black hole that had just formed was precisely because of the power of Yi Xian's previous punch. After shattering a large portion of the void of the universe along the way, it took advantage of the fact that the blood mist had yet to be completely dispersed by the countless spatial turbulence to instantly spread out. The powerful suction force had completely disrupted the structure of the void. A ninth-order king realm expert was already considered a half-step emperor realm expert. If he punched out with all his strength, he could even destroy a small star field. This punch, Yi Xian's target was only the five-color deer. When he punched out, he had already deliberately controlled his strength. Otherwise, the impact on this universe void would be far greater than this. Although the ninth-order king realm expert was considered a half-step emperor realm expert, he was not a true star emperor. Only the supreme existence of the emperor realm could perfectly control the boundless power in his huge true body, to the point where not a single drop of power leaked out. With a punch, the enemy hundreds of millions of miles away would be destroyed, but the void along the way would not be affected in the slightest. This was something that the current Yi Xian was unable to do. But this time, although the five-color deer was successfully killed, the final result was that the green ox did not follow the plan, leading to the formation of this black hole. Right now, the battle had just ended, and this black hole was already millions of kilometers in radius. Moreover, it was still rapidly spreading to the surroundings. If it was left alone and allowed to continue spreading, it would not be long before a black hole with a diameter of hundreds of millions of kilometers would appear. A gigantic black hole would be completely formed. At that time, not to mention the current Yi Xian, even if a true Emperor Realm expert came, he would not be able to reverse the situation. In the end, it would cause an irreversible impact on this vast and boundless primordial world fragment void. Damn it, I almost caused a big mess. Frowning, the star-violent ape muttered softly. Without hesitation, its body flashed and it was already tens of millions of miles away. Its huge body, which was like a star, stood at the edge of the expanding miniature universe black hole. Shill! Swish! 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 In the next instant, the starry sky violent ape didn't hesitate in the slightest. As its figure moved without end, its arms that were like enormous pillars that could hold up the sky waved without end. Along with numerous extremely sharp sounds that tore through the air, numerous strands of invisible and profound energy shot out violently from its hands. It turned into countless rays of light and shot toward the expanding universe black hole in front of it. The landing points of these mysterious rays of light were all the void nodes that Yi Xian remembered in his heart when the void of the universe collapsed. He wanted to repair the void of the universe that was millions of kilometers away and prevent the black hole from continuing to expand. Chapter 4303. Swish! Swish, swish, swish. In the void, the faint sound of breaking through the air continued to ring out. The starry sky ape's gigantic body, which was like a star, had been circling the void of this universe that was millions of miles in radius. As the ape waved its hands, streaks of light shot out and entered the black hole that was gradually stabilizing. They rebuilt and stabilized the void nodes that had collapsed completely one by one, The entire process lasted for the time it took for an incense stick to burn before it was completely over. The universe's black hole, which had been rapidly spreading outward, had completely stopped, and had begun to slowly condense inwards. Unfortunately, things in the world had always been much more difficult to destroy than to build. Right now, although the universe black hole's outward expansion had been completely suppressed and had even begun to repair itself. However, it would take some time for the universe black hole, which had already reached a radius of 1,000,000 miles, to completely recover and disappear. At this moment, it had already been half an incense stick of time since Yi Xian and the green ox had killed the 5-colored deer. The possibility of unexpected changes had increased by countless times. Thinking of this, Yi Xian didn't hesitate any longer. With a thought, he directly withdrew from the 6th transformation of the devil ape. His gigantic body that was like a star returned to its original height of 30 meters in the blink of an eye. He was originally at the peak of the 9th stage of the titled King realm. He also fell to the 3rd level of the Emperor-conferred realm. At the same time, the large river of blood mist that Yi Xian had sent into the Shenong cauldron to condense the blood essence half an incense stick had just finished condensing, transforming into a blood essence that caused one's hair to stand on end. Swish! With a thought, the blood essence shot out from the Shenong cauldron and landed in Yi Xian's hands. Including the king blood essence condensed from the flesh and blood of the 2 vicious birds in the Phoenix Blood Star region, this is already the 3rd king blood essence that I've collected. A light flashed in Yi Xian's eyes as he played with the middle stage king blood essence, and softly muttered, "In this way, half of the 6 king blood essences in my hands are at the middle stage of the king realm. Once we gather them together, we'll be able to gather all of them. Once you have 10 of them, open the furnace and refine the level 23 pellets. When the time comes, the number and grade of the pellets that come out of the furnace will definitely surprise you." At this point, Yi Xian almost could not hold himself back and wanted to refine on the spot. After all, 5 pieces of regal blood essences were enough to start the furnace. He already had 6 pieces of regal blood essences in his hands. But in the end, he forcibly suppressed this impulse. After all, the location was not suitable. Swish! Very quickly, Yi Xian retrieved a small jade bottle and placed the precious king bestowment blood essence into it. Yi Xian flipped his hand and kept the jade bottle into his undying world. His figure flashed and in the blink of an eye, he was already millions of miles away on an abandoned planet. In the next instant, numerous extremely miserable moos entered his ears, and it was accompanied by the choked-up cries of grief and indignation from the green ox. "Moo! Moo! I just met the true love of my life, and in the blink of an eye, we were separated by life and death. Not even a corpse was left behind, refined into the blood essence of ferocious beasts by evil people. How can I endure this? Moo! I don't want to live anymore." Moo! Hearing these words, Yi Xian was completely speechless. He was dumbstruck as he stared at the green ox that sat on the ground and swung its 4 hooves like a shrew. His entire body felt as if it had been struck by lightning. He was completely stupefied. This old fellow is actually serious? As this thought flashed through his mind, Yi Xian was once again struck by lightning. His expression instantly turned strange, as though he was about to turn green. Although he had heard of love at first sight many times, but, for a cow to meet a deer, what kind of situation was this? Although he could not understand, the green ox in front of him was indeed crying too hard. A dignified regal blood essence expert was actually acting like a shrew, sitting on the ground and shaking its hooves like a shrew. It was obvious that it had suffered a huge blow. Moreover, since it had fallen in love, it was understandable that the green ox did not act according to the plan. It could not help but act. There was a reason for it, so it could be forgiven. With that thought, the anger in Yi Xian's heart instantly dissipated. Looking at the green ox that was crying and throwing a tantrum in front of him, he was completely at a loss. Roar! At this moment, an incomparably shrill roar suddenly sounded from the direction of the beaming forbidden land. This was clearly the angry roar of a regal blood essence expert, and it was not an ordinary ferocious beast king. If nothing unexpected happened, it should be the 2 half-step beasts of the beaming forbidden land. One of the copper behemoths. Damn it, something big almost happened. As his gaze swept over, Yi Xian's expression instantly changed. He no longer hesitated. As he spoke, he suddenly waved his hand. Whoosh! With a piercing sound, an ancient cauldron with a radius of 1,000 feet was summoned from his body. It was the Shenong treasured cauldron. In the next moment, Yi Xian did not care whether the green ox that had fallen to the ground agreed or not. With a thought, he directly activated the Shennon Cauldron's domain power and put the old fellow who had suddenly become infatuated into the Shennon Cauldron. Immediately after waving his hand to put away the cauldron again, Yi Xian's figure flashed, and he immediately activated the spirit source core that was suspended above the sea of consciousness in his mind. Under the perfect vibration, level 9 spirit power enveloped his entire body, and his 30-meter-tall body of a violent ape disappeared in a blink of an eye. His eyes disappeared, and not a single trace of his aura could be detected. After completing all of this, Yi Xian secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Although the scarlet copper behemoth that let out a sharp howl within the behemoth forbidden area had already realized that something had happened, it was still far away after all. That sharp howl just now was only a warning. By the time his true body arrived, Yi Xian would have already fled far away with his cultivation base. He was not afraid at all. In the next moment, with a thought from Yi Xian, the energy in his body was activated. With a teleportation, his figure, which had long been perfectly concealed by his spirit power, instantly disappeared from the interior of this planet. When he reappeared, he was already tens of millions of kilometers away. However, he did not stop. He only stayed for half a moment before immediately carrying out a second teleportation. Boom! After 10 breaths, an earth-shattering rumbling sound appeared above the abandoned planet where Yi Xian had been standing before he left. The void split open, and a crimson figure that was at least 100,000 feet tall emitted endless red light. It was like a star, causing people to be speechless. The figure that was forced to look at him stepped out of the void crack that had collapsed. The existence that descended was shockingly a copper behemoth. Its body was like a gorilla or an elephant, giving off an incomparably heavy and steady feeling. The cultivation aura that emanated from its body was also incomparably powerful. It was shockingly at the 9th stage of the conferred king realm, which was half a step away. Emperor! At this moment, the copper behemoth came in anger. The conferred king pressure in its body did not retract in the slightest. As soon as its figure descended into this void, under the crushing pressure of its seemingly substantial might, the void in the distance was instantly abandoned one by one.